Let's get started. Welcome back. I'm Winter, and it's been too long. No, not since the last time you watched me, though thanks for fixing that. No, hopefully not since the last time you played StarCraft 2. Though, let's be more realistic, watched. No. It's been too long since the last time we delved into the depths of the StarCraft 2 leagues. The densely packed darkness, filled with tenacious Terrans, bold Protoss, and relentless Zergs, all climbing and clawing and shooting and charging and dropping and nuking their way up the ladder in order to achieve whatever scrap of glory they're looking for, or at least throw it in the face of Kevin on Discord, who got Diamond and Wings of Liberty and has been coasting off that accomplishment for 10 years. No, an accomplishment is not Diamond 10 years ago. An accomplishment is getting a little bit better today. 2 years ago, I attempted to show with the LOW APM challenge that working smarter and not harder is the most efficient way to improve. That with just a relatively small time commitment, but a medium brain commitment, you can improve at the most difficult 1v1 game in the world. I think I succeeded at that. But, as always, with StarCraft 2 and in general, you can do a little bit better. So I'd like to introduce the 2022 LOW APM Challenge. In combination with SC2 replay stats, I will be, over the next weeks and months, and however long it takes, showing you, as each race individually, Terran, Zerg, and Protoss, as opposed to allowing the random gods to dictate our fates, how to get a little bit better. I will once again attempt to climb the ranks, working smarter and not harder. And over the last 2 years, not too much has changed in StarCraft 2. No huge balance patches. The maps are similar. The player count as well. So, while the best time to start was with Kevin back in Wings of Liberty, the second best time to restart or start StarCraft 2 is today. Because at the end of the day, there is nothing more difficult or satisfying in gaming. It's honestly less of a game and more of a lifestyle. I've made it mine for 12 years now, and hopefully you've enjoyed sharing it with me. So hopefully you enjoy the LOW APM Challenge number 2 in 2022, and hopefully it makes many of your days and your games a little bit better. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the other side. Good luck. Have fun. Stay tuned. Welcome to the 2022 LOW APM Challenge. That guy was pretty preachy, I know. But he has his moments. We are starting off. Yes, my Terran friends, I know many of you, statistically, starting off as Terran. This time, with the LOW APM Challenge, we are tackling each race individually. That was one of the big issues a couple years ago, was the random gods just decided that some of you didn't need to learn, that we didn't have the diversity quota. But instead, we're going to be starting out with the most played races. We got Terran, and then Protoss, and then Zerg in the lower leagues. Don't worry, Zergs. We're coming for you. And a new set of APM limits. Yes, here in this fancy graphic, with data drawn from nearly 3 million games on SC2 replay stats in 2021. This shows you lower than the average actions per minute of a player of each of these leagues, with a small caveat. I just want to tell you. So, if you were in the Bronze League last year, you may have actually been Masters and vice versa. There was a bit of a bug with Bronze Leaguers being... Masters League MMR being in Bronze. So that did throw off the numbers. So I'm just throwing that out there. But otherwise, if you consult the numbers, you find... Jimmy, can we see them? Nobody cares about this. This just proves we have numbers. Those numbers could just be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But instead... Anyway. So, without further ado, Terran. So you want to play Terran. Good luck. Do you want to get on Bronze League Heroes? Or do you want to get to Diamond? Do you want to embody some of the worst and most frustrating strategies? Or do you want to play like Maru? Well, almost none of these you will be able to do. But there's a few things that Terran players, especially in the meta leagues, could definitely work on. But we're going to start out by talking about hotkeys, talking about settings, talking about all these things that people essentially think are going to help them in the long run. And it's true. They will. I already have some videos on this. I'm not going to go too much in depth here, but the summary is you don't need that much. You don't need anything particularly special. In fact, right now, right in front of you live, I know, it sounds crazy. I'm going to show you what I like to use for Terran hotkeys. And I think grid hotkeys are perfectly fine. I think whatever works for you, for the most part, is perfectly fine. But a few little suggestions. First off, camera locations. Something to note. Idle worker key is default F1. Alright, default F1. So, I like to start on Control F2 for create location. The reason I use Control and not Shift for this is because on the first keyboard I played StarCraft 2, Shift F2 would mute all sound on my computer, and I couldn't figure out how to disable that. So that was not great. So I just decided Control would be the way to go. And because I'm old and fear change, I've used that ever since. So I think Shift F2 is perfectly fine. Shift F3, you'll see I'll be using a different Select All Army hotkey as well. Don't worry, we're still going to be using it. But yeah, I've just been using that ever since. So that's more of a me thing, though it goes along with control groups there as well. And then jumping to location F2, F3, F4, and F5. I personally like drag scroll, so this is when... I'll show you in game, but this is when you center on your mouse. It's a lot easier to show than tell. So I like to put on the back mouse button. That's also for observing games and all of that. These are just general hotkeys. These aren't specific to Terran. Though we'll get into that momentarily. Select all army units. The tilde key. The one over to the left there. People know what tilde is. Some people call it the grave key. I don't really know what either of those words mean, but then again, it's what it's called. It's the squiggly line key. You know what it is. Look at your keyboard. You're on your phone. Well, that explains a lot. Now, another general hotkey, but we'll go to Terran specifically. Patrol. I like to put it on Q. It doesn't really overlap with anything. Patrol is kind of a critical part of RTS, and it has a lot of uses outside of just your basic cinematic-looking Marine Guardsman. Between making sure your units are always under acceleration, which is definitely not something relevant at this level, to just covering some sort of area in the air, especially. But having patrol not on what is essentially a Brood War level key on P is very helpful. Now for Terran specific keys. First one, lifting up and setting down. F. Not L. Make it a little bit easier to lift off those barracks and command centers, and yeah, they're more built. It's factories and starports. That's pretty much it. But being able to quickly and easily lift is a big deal. So once again, these are all for people who are using standard keys. Honestly, the longer I play and the more different RTS I play, the more I like grid hotkeys. I've come around. I think grid hotkeys are good. But it's not what I learned. And if you are a Terran looking to improve, but you're like, I don't want to change and I've been using standard hotkeys, well, I'm here for you. Another one. Upgrade planetary. T. Pretty much anything on the right side of the keyboard, I'm moving to the left side of the keyboard. You're like, Winter, but that's the same on grid hot. We've already been over this. Okay? We've already done... I get it. But, T. Another couple are the Liberator instead of Q on N. So select builder is something you can do by just box selecting on it. I've never used that key. I didn't even know what it did, and I was scared of it when I unbound it originally, but I still have never used that key, even accidentally. So it's not a big loss, even though it's very scary when this happens to your hotkeys, I will say. Another one that shares the same key, Cyclone, Q. There's a few more things. So, important to note, I actually use some rapid fire hotkeys. I have a short guide on that. But just in general, changing some of the abilities to easier things to click. So, a big one is the battle cruiser. So, you have the Yamato cannon, and you have tactical jump. One is stand still and shoot a big cannon at something right in front of you. And one is teleport. These are not things you want to get mixed up. Yet, when they are on similar keys next to each other on the keyboard, they do get mixed up. And that can have bad, disastrous consequences. So, for example, teleporting when you meant to shoot at something is not always the ideal scenario. So F. I'm just looking through, thinking about... Oh, I like to have Ghost Snipe with C as an alternate key. And then I use B for Cloak. This is because the C key is a rapid fire hotkey, which allows you to cast, just by hovering over your mouse, a bunch of different abilities. This is most commonly used for Ravager Corrosive Bile. When Ravagers shotgun out a dozen Corrosive Biles, which are default on C, but you can use it for other things like Ghost Snipe, Interference Matrix. Technically, sometimes I try putting Yamato Cannon on it, but that usually ends poorly. So, but just overlapping a little on that, and you can use it for different things. So let's take a look. The summary, camera locations to something a little more usable. The patrol key on Q. A few of the building hotkeys, Cyclone, Liberator. Those switch to something more convenient on Q. Otherwise, not much else. A very key one is the lifting buildings on it. If there was nothing else, if for some reason you had a hotkey budget, you could only change one hotkey out of all the things on buildings, it would be that, in my opinion. Because being able to quickly lift and set back down buildings can make all the difference. Especially from the games I've seen in the lower levels. So, with that, are you sure you want to save? Did you know, by the way, did you know this game has voice chat? Yes. Turn it off because it will mess up your sound settings if it's enabled every time you load the game. And that is the effect of voice chat. Otherwise, just move on. And so, maps. I recommend vetoing 3 maps. Maybe if you haven't played before, just try playing all of them. But overall, I think having a minimum amount of variables is good. If I was Terran, in general, what we're going to be focusing on is less what's a good Terran map, because let's be honest here, what's a good Terran map does not matter right now. What matters is being able to follow a basic plan for any amount of time. And what that means is consistency. So I'm actually going to veto, and if you don't play, you might not know which maps are your non-standard setup. But Blackburn is one of them. You see here, with the main bases close to each other by air, you actually expand away from your opponent. Yes, expand. We're going to be doing that. This is a non-standard map. And while boring, only playing standard maps, honestly, we're here to be boring. We're here to be consistent. We're here to be the path of least resistance, not the path of most entertainment. So, if you're looking for the entertaining builds or creativity, well, you can always go play Protoss. But we're buckling down and working out a solid game plan. So, Blackburn's out. Beckett Industries, tiny map. A lot more vulnerable to rushes. It's out. Now, I debated whether to do, like, going through each of the maps, but at the rate we're switching out maps recently in StarCraft 2, which is admittedly a glacial pace, I think these will be pretty valid for a while, at least for some of them, and will help you kind of realize what types of maps there are. Hardwire is a relatively standard map. It can stay. You've got no ramp to your natural, but you do have a choice of third bases and a pretty long rush distance. Pride of Eltaris, on the other hand, it's hard to tell from the thumbnail here, is a huge map. It's actually one of the few maps that uses the multiple cliff levels. There's actually 4 levels on the map, which is a recent addition to the game. Mostly for campaign stuff, but technically could be used in multiplayer as well. So that's going to be the third veto. Glittering Ashes follows your more standard mindset. Curious Minds has a ramp to your natural, making it even easier to defend. Berlingrad, while it doesn't have a ramp to your natural, it does have that standard setup, and 2,000 Atmospheres kind of follows it as well. For better or worse in SC2, we have a way of doing things, and that pro players mostly, which is who we balance around, that pro players mostly have worked out. And they very much do not like it if we change that system too much. Of course, at this level, and by this level, I mean, I think we're aiming at the Bronze League heroes. It doesn't really matter. But it's the idea and of consistency. So, maybe let's play a game. If anyone's out there. What is the goal, by the way? 50 actions per minute. So, for those watching live, how you doing? I'll be taking questions between the games, sometimes during the games, and the limit is 50 actions per minute. At the end of the game, if I have over 50 actions per minute, and for every 5 I go over, I'll be gifting a sub to the chat. So, out of my and Jimmy's pocket will come
be better this time.
that failure. So it is not like, oh darn, I just didn't make it happen. No, there is a price, and that price is at least 1 subscription. And if you're already subscribed, well, I'm glad you enjoy. Just enjoy having content. Be content. So, starting off, I put my command center on 4. Some players choose 1. Usually it's 1 or 4. It's kind of weird if you pick another one, but it's okay. It's just kind of weird. I'm actually gonna use that drag scroll here, you see, to set up camera locations. I didn't even really touch the settings, did I? And starting a barracks, which I like to hotkey on 5. I'm already late on everything. Refinery. So, a lot of the low APM challenge is not so much giving you an exact, like, copy-pasted build order. It is a game plan that you can adapt, which takes a little more thinking, right? It takes a little more thinking overall. But if you can learn to be slightly flexible, it definitely helps a lot if anything goes a way you didn't expect. Looks like, for example, he's got a drone in my base. I sent out an SCV right around the 1 minute mark, usually around 17 supply. Build a marine. First things first, get an orbital. I'm gonna hotkey the building SCV as 2. Alright. He does not have an expansion. That's all I needed to know. I build mine on the high ground. So he has a spawning pool, and he's getting 2 gases. But he hasn't used any of his larvae, which means he's not building any zerglings. And that's all I need to know for now.
CC upgraded.
That means...
But at what cost?
And this is what I was going to do anyways. But that means I can get a reactor after the first marine. The first marine, we're going to be doing. We're not Clem or even Cure. I am going to be going with the safe middle of the road. Not even middle of the road, like kind of the Oldsmobile in the fast lane of someone who really shouldn't be driving, but like who's going to take their license away. Grandpa.
Is all done.
That's why we're here. Going 50. Well, technically the average APM of a Terran Bronze Leaguer, according to SC2 replay stats, is about 80 last year. But, as I mentioned, that is heavily skewed by the fact that some Masters MMR players were listed in Bronze because the intern must have spilled some, like, vodka into the ranking server. So, it's an important point to note. They weren't playing Bronze players. They were just listed as Bronze, which is different. They were still playing Masters players. They just were listed in the Bronze League, which it kind of confuses me as to why those are not tied together. But, so, what that does is has skewed the numbers for Bronze. And made it seem like Bronze APM is higher than Silver, which is a little suspicious. Either way. So, I've got my reactor. I've been building Marines. I know. We'll be going over each one. I'm not using any of these particular games. Like, the first game is obviously going to be your general summary. I don't know why I expected otherwise. But I'm not following a particular exact build each game, but there's several benchmarks that are important. I've reached 30 SCVs. I know I'm still on 1 base, so I gotta fix that. But 30 SCVs. It's time for Barracks 2 and Barracks 3. We're gonna be playing a lot of mech, but we'll throw some bio in as well. We'll start out with bio here. Looks like he's got Zerglings. This is not a surprising outcome here. I'm going to expand. And you know what? I'm going to put a tech lab on this starport. Because somebody is going to need to upgrade stim and combat shield. So we're going to do a bit of the add-on flip there. I'm going to put the tank right up on that little spot.
Add-on finished up. You picked that one?
After I finish the next tank. Now I'm using Control and F1, which selects all idle SCVs on the map, which is quite convenient. So now we'll slap those barracks over there using those F keys. Gonna get a reactor for the starport and another tech lab for the factory. Gotta get back to SCV production. And I like to hotkey all my production, just Shift 5, and use the Tab key to go through it and switch out what I'm building. Some players will put it on 5, 6, and 7. I used to do that back in Wings of Liberty, but I find it a little easier to just tab through production. So that is definitely dealer's choice. But I find a lot of players will try to put production on different keys, and then the factory and starport do get somewhat neglected in that setup. Just because they're far out in the countryside of hotkeys. All right, so I already made a mistake here. Well, I made several, depending on how you want to look at it.
And it's not coming
But
back.
I built these depots back here. I've expanded. There is no reason those depots should not be at the natural. A lot of players, even myself a little bit right here, are too scared to actually defend their base. Like, they'll put it out there, and they'll be, at the first sign of trouble, they'll be like, well, I guess I can't defend that. That's a lot of Zerglings. Well, the best way to deal with those Zerglings is to kill them. And that is the priority. And now, another tip that I really like, and I've been using a lot, is putting the engineering bay on, or engineering bays, which I should have soon, putting those on the command center keys. Shift 4. So what you can do here, build a couple SCVs, press the tab key, start +1 armor. Now, I don't have +1 armor ready, but I'm going to get an armory, which I'm also going to put on that same key, because the prioritization, the game says, is this a wall? Huh, I didn't even know you could wall off with 4 depots.
Your research is complete.
Oh, it's been a while. I should be scanning.
Upgrades finished up.
Let's take a look.
Your base is under assault.
You know what? I don't think we need a look. Gonna stim some of those Marines. Oh, here come some Banelings. Might need some more depots, but good thing we built them, right? Oh, some roaches. Is this tower defense? All right. Next wave, I think, is Hydras, right? So that kind of preempted.
That mineral field.
See, I managed to screw up the wall. Because that's what I do. I probably should have been building turrets just in case of mutas a little bit earlier here. But my goal is to get +2, +2. Where, how many? Oh my god, I missed another benchmark. Which we're going to be working out over time. Like, I'm coming in not with a spreadsheet of builds, but instead a stew of ideas. From watching your games, both the ones you pay me to watch with the Angry Coach, and from things like Bronze League Heroes, as well as just playing myself. And not every game am I going to have the exact build I'm doing, but the idea is over time, you'll build up a general, essentially a action-reaction, like a flow chart. He's doing this, I do that, as well as understanding basic mechanics. Because at the end of the day, in StarCraft 2, more shit counters less shit. You have more of the mostly right units, you're going to win many more times than not. There are exceptions. Yes, you can't just run over 5 lurkers without detection. You can't build only roaches against Mass Void Ray. You can't try to use Mass Reaper against... I mean, maybe you can, actually. There's a lot of scenarios where that might work, but we're not doing that. I don't know. Alright. Let's get these gas geysers. Gonna get just a bunch more I got the money here. We're gonna add those barracks in. Another tank. And a third command center. All I want to do now, I don't. Now this is definitely more of a Bronze League Heroes move, but scan the natural, because this is just playing off of the level we're at. At this level, about 80%. I'm just making up a number. 80% of Zergs gonna be sitting there with whatever units they have. Much like I'm just sitting here with whatever units I have. once you move up and players are moving around the map a little more, that is a less reliable tactic. And we're going to start moving Marines out on the map.
That one?
We're going to start taking watchtowers. But right now, 95% of our focus is on making sure we're building units. We're getting upgrades. We're building SCVs and command centers. We're getting a 200 supply as quick as possible. We're doing it quicker the next game. That's the plan, and that is the key to success. At the end of the day, and for better or worse, and any more cliches I can come up with before the end of this sentence, you're not playing a strategy game.
You took all the minerals from that cluster, you thief.
Shh. You're not playing a strategy game. You're playing
Add-on is good to go.
essentially an economy simulator.
An upgrade
Now,
to the mineral field has upgrade
a lot of
completed.
people like to treat this game more like city skylines, but I would definitely put it more like a Factorio, to be honest. Making sure you have enough income of resources to produce what you need to get higher tech stuff. And also beating the Zerg. So that's a little on the nose, but StarCraft 2 is closer to Factorio, especially at the lower levels. If you're playing well, then it is to I don't know, say Civilization or something like that, or even Command and Conquer.
Your
So,
CC is now a BCC, a better command
I'm
center.
going to land my third. Here's a goal. I want all you bronze and silver leaguers, and in your mind, bronze and silver leaguers, take your third
Mind out of
before
that
you attack.
cluster.
No matter if you feel
It's
you
still
need
in
to
the
attack,
game.
take
Nice.
your third. This is the biggest thing and the biggest step for Terrans and Protoss. Zerg's not as much, but Terrans and Protoss, they don't take their third. And if they're going to take their third, let's be honest, it's going to be in the corner where they don't feel
Took all the
responsibility
minerals from
for
that
it.
cluster, you thief.
So before I move out, I'm going to take just a clump of the workers. Gonna move them over here. Oh, this reminds me. One of the hotkeys I did forget is building bunkers.
You're all mined out of that mineral field.
I like to put it on the Q key.
Mineral patch
Because
is
the
gone,
U key,
and
I
it's
find
becoming
myself
mineral
struggling
field
with.
completed.
There you go. Makes it a little bit easier. Putting a bunker to help wall off here. Actually like a sensor tower. There you go. All set up. Alright, now since most of my units are in my base, I actually am going to hit the select all army key. Control 1. I'm going to control click the siege tanks to select them all.
Upgrade is all done.
We're going to lower these depots, and we're going to A-click on his base. Alright, these SCVs now. I'm going to go mine from here. So what we're going to do, with over 1,000 minerals, another command center. Now this is important. Another starport. That's not going to be for battle cruisers yet. Maybe later. Another factory. I think getting in the habit of, even when you're going for Marines, of getting all of these things is super key. Because even at the higher level, even with Clem and Maru, let's make sure those boosting the medevacs, which is pretty intense micro. That is the one thing when you're A-clicking across the map you want to make sure you're doing.
The enemy
Is
engaged your forces.
the medevacs and other flying units will have a tendency to do their own thing, right? Like they'll fly over you. So you got to be a little cognizant of how important, like just making sure those medevacs. Some players will hotkey them
Forces under attack.
on their own
Your boys
hotkey.
are next.
But that is, like, even I've seen Maru do it, and he still screws it up. I think it's a little bit. Just be aware that your army
under
won't
attack.
always necessarily go the same place, because not all your units are forced to walk.
That's the commander I've been waiting for.
So. What if he massed banelings? We make more Marines. Pound for pound, a baneling costs more than a Marine. Most of the time. Now, in a closer match where maybe you took some damage early, sometimes the Zerglings get in. Yes, you might want to make sure those tanks are sieged. Right now, we're focusing on getting 200 supply, getting upgrades as quickly as possible. It took me, this game, about 14 minutes to max out, which is a long time. I would say a good way of practicing most days is to play a game against just one, against whatever level of AI you care about beating, or lower than that even. And focus on just getting your 3 bases, getting your 3 racks at 30 SCVs. Now, the most important thing is continuing to produce those SCVs. And then getting your 5 racks at 40 SCVs. And getting that 3rd base before you move out. So, let's see. For game 1, did we meet the challenge? We certainly achieved something. And for some reason, we get a Colossus skin, which doesn't really make sense. Yes. 41 actions per minute against the opponent with nearly 50% more, but the focus on more and better army over attacking for the sake of it. What did the Zerg do to lose? He focused on trying to kill me, as opposed to working on his own economy. From multiple swells of Zerglings and Banelings for no particular reason, there is no way his worker count was even remotely close, as he maxed out around 25 to my somewhat higher. But you will see that a lot. The most consistent way at this level, as I think we'll see, like, I'll be honest, when the Diamond League has gotten better, for whatever reason, the Diamond League has gotten significantly better in StarCraft 2. I mean, there are a lot of players there, and that is why we have a more split set of requirements for it. Because honestly, I don't think I can get to Masters with 100 APM as Terran. The average in Diamond is almost 160. But
I'm sure this one.
we're a long way from that right now. A long way. So we just focus on the basics. If it was Serral, he would have maxed at 12 minutes and killed Winter. I don't think if Serral had drank an entire liter of Finnish vodka, if he had only access to an Xbox controller, and he had to play with his left hand, I think he could still max out quicker than that. So, typical Protoss. Definitely throwing me off. Well, here's the thing. At a higher level, I would assume that he's cheesing. I would. But I'm not convinced. Wow, why are the ambient sounds? The under the sea. I am going to expand on the low ground. Let's get those camera locations set up. We're getting into his base, and we see a gateway, a forge. And now a forge may seem scary. But then you realize he also has
Center upgrade.
the gateways. If it was only a forge, then I would get a little suspicious. And even now, I'm going to build a bunker on the low ground. If he has more than one gateway, that is worthy of note. I'm just going to have this SCV chill over here at the watchtower. And that's where it's going to hang out, hopefully until the end of time. There's no going home for that. He's an adventurer. Adventure to that watchtower. Fun fact, if your SCVs, if your workers are at the watchtower, they don't show up on the idle worker tab, which is convenient.
Your add-on is all done.
All right. We are at... Well, the factory's building. I'm going to get my second gas, and we're going to do essentially the same build as against Zerg. One of the beauties of Terran is all those units, especially the ones that start with M, they're good in every matchup. There's almost no significant reason to deviate from them. Sure, the exact timing might vary. The upgrades you start with might vary slightly, but overall,
Your command
Marines
center? Better
and
than
tanks and medevacs will get you most of the way to where you want to go, no matter where it is.
ever. Your add-on has been constructed.
We're now a couple SCVs off. I'm going to start a tank. We see some zealots. I'm actually going to get a few depots here. But we're at 30 SCVs. I hover over and see. Get barracks 2 and 3. Start a reactor on the starport. Get all my production together. And this is something I'm going to put an engineering bay in the wall. So maps are standardized. What does that mean? They all look similar. So this is not the sort... I have no real tip for this. I wish I did. But one of the hardest things to teach is mini-map awareness. Just being able to catch out of the corner of your eye that there's a nexus over here.
Add-on complete.
Or at least a probe went there. Because, as you know, it is very scary to expand to a base right in front of you, because then you'll feel responsible for it. So, that is part of the reason we had an SCV over there, is to look for fun things like that. Alright, barracks 4 and 5. So, he has a nexus there. Do I need to attack?
Add-on finished up. You picked
No.
that one?
Especially since that nexus is far away from his main. Means it will not contribute to his economy for quite a while. There's no reason for me to deviate from my plan of maxing out as quickly as possible. We're going to aim for 12 minutes this time. It was like 13 and a half in the previous game. But as we get up to, well, at this point, honestly, I probably should have had a turret in the mineral lines. This is in case of DT drop. It's just something. Now, if he's very committed to the DT drop, then, well, just know there's probably very little to back it up. That's really all we can console ourselves with. I've got Control F1. Get those idle SCVs back to work. Build a couple more reactors. You guys can build me some more depots over here. A couple medevacs as well. Drop a couple mules. They do add, even if you're at... And by the way, you can go over 16 workers on a base. It'll turn red. It really should turn yellow
Just a little bit better.
until 24. So what happens if you launch the SCVs? 2 SCVs will keep mining from a mineral patch. They'll just keep doing it until that mineral patch is gone. A third SCV, on the other hand, will slip in between it. So technically, you will have more mining. It's just when you go above 16
Research all
SCVs, some of the SCVs won't be mining some of the time. And the closer you get to 24, the more true that
An
is.
upgrade's been
So up
completed.
until about 20 SCVs, or probes, or drones, it's all the same.
You're all mined out
Shut
of
up,
that
me.
mineral field.
Up until about 20, you're still mining a significant amount more for each worker. I know, especially some Protoss pros have a religious exemption to ever going above 16 workers on a base. But I'm telling you right now, it is better to have 30 workers on your natural than to be either one, not building them at this stage,
And it's not
or
coming
two,
back.
long distance mining an area you don't have a base. Now,
Mineral field
eventually,
depleted.
if for some reason you're stuck in your base, long distance mining over 24 workers is technically better. But at this point, let's be honest, probably should
Mine
have
out of that
not one,
cluster.
but like 4
It's still
more
in the game.
command centers.
Nice.
So
Research complete, but have we learned anything?
all right, 2-2 starting. Building a few more depots. Home Depot in the base coming together slowly but surely. As I get this third command center, I'm just going to build another one. Let's go down there. I've got plenty of SCVs. 66 SCVs. The number we're aiming for is 75. 75 SCVs is about your max. Oh. We're going to stim. And we're going to work on moving some SCVs down towards the third base, which I'm going to put on the third camera location. And then I'm actually we're gonna start this. You know what? We're gonna start building a few spotters. So when you're out with your third base, it does feel vulnerable. There's a lot of space to cover.
CC upgrade done.
So
You
spotter
remembered this
depots.
time? Wow.
You need depots, and also these are essentially chew toys for units. Just something for zealots or stalkers or what have you to chew on while you have time to react. And building a few of these out there. Now, I think a key point a lot of players miss early on, especially if they haven't watched my settings
You
guide,
took all the minerals from that
is
cluster, you thief.
increasing the scroll speed of their mouse, whether it's drag scroll or mouse scroll. I don't know what
A
savages
mineral
use
field has
keyboard
been
scroll,
depleted.
but this is essentially how fast you can move around. And it is painfully obvious when some players have it at the default, which is 20%. So that is why it can sometimes feel very difficult to move around the map
Mineral field
and do things like building
Upgrade
those spotter
completed.
depots.
Your forces are just a little bit better.
All right. Looks like we're almost there. We got a fourth command center. I'm gonna do it. We're gonna press the button. Select all army. Control 1. And remember. Oh, that's a carrier. Okay. Well, I guess we're going this way. Billy Bob, the
The
SCV,
enemy is attacking your base.
giving us that valuable scouting information. Billy Bob's been hanging out there now for like 10 minutes, so he knows the land. No reason to stim 80 supply of units for one measly carrier. But this is a little suspicious. Let's take a look.
A mineral field has been depleted.
All right.
Mined out of that cluster.
I'm going to take
Still
this
in the
base.
game?
As
Nice.
Terran, you should get in the habit of don't be afraid of expanding towards your opponent. think of how especially Protoss and Zerg work. They both exploit the fact Terran production is so methodical. You have to queue up units, you have to build them, they have to walk out of the barracks. This means if you have to go backwards, you lose more time than a Protoss who can warp in or recall, or a Zerg who has a speed upgrade for everything but their brain. So, Terran players, ideally, and that is why I expanded to the front third base as well, for the same reason, is to be able to move forward towards
Time to lift to the corner and pray.
my opponent. You see the Chew Toy here, working out for a little bit of everything. Alright.
Forces under attack. The boys
That's actually a few units there. So, gonna make sure we have units in production. And we're gonna rally them into the main. So this is a bit of an awkward base trade, right? SCVs to the main. Lift the orbital. So right now, what I'm gonna do is gut his main. And what are we looking at? Carriers, right?
It's not coming back.
Let's get some turrets. It is finally that time, right?
Base under attack.
Plenty of turrets. Hit that stim key. We need to do a little more work here. So how do I see this playing out? It is awkward. I'm going to clean up his entire main. I'm going to build some more barracks on my side of the map. And why not? Like, look at my money. I can build another base. I can't build a starport because I lost my factory too quick.
Your army is under attack. Your
But
CC is now a BCC.
between the turrets and the army eventually coming back, we should be able to deal with all this. So I see he has one assimilator there. I'm going to shift click off a couple marauders.
You engage the enemy on purpose.
And we're going to head the army back. I didn't lift my buildings because even larger chew toys, essentially. A key part in a base trade is understanding how important it is or isn't to fight the army, how important it is or isn't to come back home. And that is exploiting the main weakness of Terran there, which is I can't just recall back to my base now, can I? So we're going to put some SCVs on auto repair. We're going to stim everyone else. And he has another base somewhere. He does. So I'm actually going to control 2. Have another set of units. Control 1. For the rest here.
Your base is under assault.
And we found it. I probably should have brought the medevacs alongside here. But it wouldn't be an awkward carrier base trade without the awkwardness. Looks like he's going for the bingo strat. So the interceptors cost money, as do his buildings.
Army under attack. Stim to win.
So at some point, hopefully soon-ish, he runs out of buildings.
The enemy engaged your forces.
Or money. It appears now is that time. I'll be honest, now that I think about it, the better move was probably just come back and kill it with my army. I was actually kind of hoping my reinforcements would clean it up. They did not. So it was a bit of a mistake to go for the base trade. I know they say don't base trade a Terran, but in Legacy of the Void, to be honest, that's not super true. It is more important to consolidate your army, because my army's better. In a straight-up fight, I win easily. Every time, even if he has a few storms. Because he has... Let's take a look at the upgrades. He had +1 for everything. except for ground armor. To +3, +2. I think he killed one of the engineering base. So those upgrades cannot be underestimated. Especially for Marines. If there is not Storm or Colossi, Medevacs and Marines, they kill everything. And even if there is sometimes. So. I got the achievement for sitting at the watchtower. Thank you, Billy Bob. Well. I was supply capped for 354, but that was slightly under duress. Definitely, it's a hard call to make. I debated, because it is hard for Terran to make that decision on the fly. I think that happens a lot at this level. From the Bronze League Hero submissions I've seen, is it always feels like
one way or another.
Oh, I don't think we're doing gear splitting. Reflex. It always feels like, I guess I got a base trade, when I probably 7 or 8 times out of 10 the better call is to come back and deal with their army. Because who is better at producing more units, and who is better at building their economy and getting upgrades? You. Hopefully. That's kind of the point of all this.
Oh, good. Now I have your attention.
Draconis Deadman is
Thank you,
chilling for
Draconis.
21 months. Still awesome content. Thanks.
Explaining your actions is so helpful. Well, we're hopefully at the level where almost every action can be explained. Well, once again, I'm not going to be able to explain everything of every game. And I'm going to try to take more questions from the amazing and incredible and intelligent Twitch chat. But the idea is to kind of paint a picture of the safest and most solid, not necessarily safest, but most solid way to play. I don't want people to conflate turtling with safety. We're not turtling. We're macroing, which sounds like an excuse, but it really is an explanation. There is a significant difference. Turtling is when you build static defenses to replace units. It's when you favor expanding slowly for safety. Macroing is simply focusing on building up a large economy in order to build more units and attack with a large army as soon as possible. It is not focusing on a timing attack like a 2-base or something like that. It is not focusing on a cheese, which is something that becomes way stronger if they don't see it. Like, I could tell him right now, I'm gonna go for 5 Rex Marine tank. I'm gonna get 2-2, and I'm gonna attack at 12 minutes. And well, the idea is, you or I could be confident that even if he knew all of that, he has very little hope of stopping it. Now, in fact, I would say most players of this level would, whether they were already planning on it or not, would just attack you well before those 12 minutes. But that would be the response from most people. But even if they didn't, it shouldn't make a difference. I'm not going to tell him that, because that would be what we call a dick move. You might be like, well, Winter, you're beating up Bronze Leaguers. Yes, but the idea is to show how those Bronze Leaguers can get better. If I inspire one of you to play one game with each of these, I'd call that a net win. If I inspire one of you to watch more StarCraft for one more game, I call that a net win. But sometimes the universe the universe and the stars aligned. And things just come together. And here we are.
Oh,
Your add-on is all done.
now I have your
Now-
attention.
I might have mentioned that he could pause. But I think the pause were already part of the problem. So... What, he's gonna come in with like, in 2 minutes, he's gonna show up with like 20 Banelings. Alright? But once again, the idea is I'm not just sitting here with no defenses. I'm building a tank. I've got reactored Marines. I'm building up my army. So that way, if he does attack, or if the opportunity presents itself, which as we get better, will become more and more obvious, then I can attack. Like, for example, he does a big roach push and I crush it because I have several tanks, then I shouldn't just sit back. I should go and attack with my tanks and medevacs, and ideally if I have stim and all that. But if he does not attack, then still at this level the focus is building more units. Alright. I'm actually gonna keep building tanks there. We're gonna get a 4th and a 5th barracks. I'm gonna slap down a reactor. That's gonna be for medevacs. Oh, I built a Viking out of reflex. I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea to get a Viking, but hunting overlords is not a top priority for the same reasons that I could tell him what my build is. Hunting overlords, 1, is likely to distract me from doing my build, and 2, whether he knows or not, is irrelevant.
Add-on is good to go.
Alright, right-click, shift-click on 2 SCVs, removes them from the group, and then right-click those 2 SCVs on the other gas gasser. Well, you got 3 on each. Of course, you can change the number based on how many
Your
you
upgrade
need.
is complete.
Like, say, oh no, mutas. Oh no, I need to get back into gas. Select
Upgrade's
whatever
finished
amount,
up.
right-click, shift-click 2, right-click, same thing, and then right-click back to the minerals. Oh no, it could be mutas. Why not add some of these?
Your
Gonna get
add-on
an
has been
armory
constructed.
started. In fact, Lings and Lisks are definitely high on the priority list.
Your research is complete.
3rd Command Center, building an
Research finished,
orbital.
but I'm still waiting on high-sec auto-tracking.
We're at 60 SCVs, which is plenty for this stage. It's good. A very general rule, I think, for bronze is
CC
50
upgrade done.
SCVs by 8
Remembered
minutes.
this time? Wow.
You can easily get 75 if you're on top of it, especially if you go for a quick 3 bases, but aiming for 50, honestly, at all, will put you a cut above.
Research all done.
But 50 SCVs and 50 workers by 8 minutes. Honestly, for non-Terrans, I would say that 50 workers by 7 minutes is more of a benchmark, because Protoss have Chrono Boost and Zerg have Larva, which can accumulate more quickly. This is balanced out by the mules. Is that the right spot? Okay, everyone does it. Everyone does it. I'm not the only one. Everyone's done that. Let's go mine from the 3rd. Make a nice little campaign level outpost there. Oh, I wasn't
A
building
mineral
units.
field has been depleted.
I'm sorry, I was getting excited for my SimCity.
You took all the minerals from that cluster, you thief.
Once again, chew toys. Get my chew toys. Get some medevacs. So, this game, we're gonna add in... I was gonna say Liberators, but I don't think we're at Liberators yet. I don't think Liberators are something we need yet.
Mineral field.
But at some point, there are too many medevacs. Usually it's around 6. You can go up to 8 or 10, but it gets to be too many. You don't want too much of your supply in units that don't shoot. Though, of course, when you're using stim pack a little too much. But that's going to be one of our focuses, is not using stim
Mind out of
pack
that
a little
cluster.
too much.
And still in the game? Nice.
Use that select all army key, control 1. Because this is the army we're moving out with. I don't actually, I'm going to set that rally point, actually, right here. You know what? I think I want people to learn of the rally depot.
Upgrade.
This is something I learned from players way better. I'm going to set the rally point on the depot. Do you know what happens when that depot dies? The rally point gets canceled if you set it on a unit or a building. Which means they spawn next to the barracks. Why would you want that? Because if that depot dies, there's probably a lot going down in my base. And you might not always have the opportunity or the time, mentally or physically, to go back to your base. You can always reset the rally point wherever you need it, but the idea is it's kind of a failsafe. You literally have to do nothing. But
Mineral
if they
patch
kill
is
that
gone,
depot, which
and it's not coming
any
back.
Zerg army running through, like you could set it to the wall. A lot of players will. But if that
You're all
dies,
mined out of that mineral
it's
field.
going down. So that is kind of your failsafe there. Alright.
Mined out of that cluster. And still in the game? Nice.
I'm gonna scan between bases. We're not doing scouting marines quite yet, but soon we're gonna add those in. Oh, lurkers. Important to note. So the scan is larger than the indicator shows. This is something that is very important. So now, what we want to do is get more tanks. For one. And I have to watch my army moving out. There's a small well, there we go.
You took all the minerals from that cluster, you thief.
That's only 3 lurkers. I can deal with that. We're gonna siege up these tanks. And stim. But yeah, when you see... Now, while the fight's going on, I'm just building units. If you're in a fight where you have to micro, that it better be close. 95% of fights can be solved by just building more stuff more quickly. Even with lurkers. But seeing those lurkers, if I had seen them and I was moving up on them, I don't stim and go. I back off and I think about what I actually need. So let's get those tank upgrades. Let's make sure these are hotkeyed in. Get another reactor. Control F1 for idle workers. Gonna get some turrets up there. And move the command center. So we'll do a little split there. But we need way more tanks. That's what we need here. Boost those medevacs away. Liberators are also good, but I would rather, I prefer focusing on the tanks
Your
first,
add-on is all done.
getting used to that, and then Liberators are another dimension really to add
Upgrade
in.
is all done.
So, using that select all army key for
You're all
now,
mined out of that mineral field.
we see the lurkers moving up. It is annoying. Here's what I'm gonna do. Control 2 on the tanks. We're gonna have a couple tanks back here in case he tries to move up. And we're gonna set that rally point. High-sec auto tracking, building armor. This is kind of the stage of the game where I want to move out. Because, how many SCVs? 75 on the
Mineral
dot.
field depleted.
Planetary. I need to get more gas. I got plenty of minerals. Ghosts are another option, but I, at definitely higher level than this, really struggle to use ghosts well.
Your precious base. It took dozens of APM to build. Upgrades finished up.
He's targeting my
Army's
base,
under attack.
which is not very nice.
No more gas left there. I'm sure it all went to a good cause.
There, the lurkers. So,
Force is under
let's go
attack.
this way.
The boys are next. Research complete, but have we learned anything?
We need to be ready with the scans. I'm gonna stem here. But the tanks are hitting the lurkers because we're in a good position. Let's click on his units. He has 2-2 upgrades, which are pretty good. We're gonna continue to build those tanks. And I don't have enough units to continue this attack. Gonna hit select all army here. Oh, he added some Zerglings. A lot of Zerg players, these are panic-lings.
Patch is gone.
You might
It's
see
not
these
coming
in
back.
Angry Coach. Right click, shift, 1, 2, 3.
I've never seen this screen.
Yeah, that was definitely a bit, and I'm a little suspicious as to the lack of pause. As you don't see too many players using lurkers and hydras in different areas. But with a little bit of patience, usually the Zerg player, even one with those dangerous units, is easy enough to pick apart. They will make a mistake if you play it safe. And you never have to feel obligated to attack. Now, you don't want to sit in your base and let them do whatever they want because you're not going to react instantaneously every time. The best defense is at least being out there and forcing them to react to you somewhat. So I know I'm saying almost two contradictory things, but the idea is don't sit in your base, but don't just attack either. There's the entire rest of the map. And that is usually the best place to fight those lurkers. We failed. Despite my best efforts. And that means it's time. For the people. That doesn't seem like bronze. I mean, there's also the Gold League logo, which I thought we were pretty solidly... Yeah, well... so he did have a little bit of a higher actions per minute. But that is irrelevant. That is entirely what we're trying to prove here. So when you look at, like, why wasn't he better with 158 APM? Just, I want you, remember, as we talked about earlier, that medium brain. I want you to think about what you're saying. All right. And where you are, and what you're doing. SC2 Ninja and Hell Chaos, the beneficiaries.
Wonder Gaming has gifted 2 subs to viewers.
And it is the same player. To be fair to me, and I think we can all agree, I'm going to give myself 60. We're going to go to the silver APM level
here we
against
go
this
again.
player. Thank you, Scooter. Yes. As that
Scooter
explains
McGavin
it.
has gifted 5 subs to viewers.
I was hoping we'd be able to make it more than one day. Unfortunately, I did debate playing on Europe to avoid. So he said 60 exclamation point for those who don't know. But here we are. Which is a bit of a tell. I do appreciate he was more clever in the previous match. I am now... That does kind of ruin it. I was hoping that his cat legitimately spilled a drink on his keyboard. You know what? I choose to believe that happened. Despite what we now know. But the subtlety went out the window by game 2. For those who aren't following along, I said I'm going to 60 APM here on stream without a delay. 5 seconds later, in the game, he said 60 exclamation point. So if you're still not following along, well, don't worry. I'm sure this video is much longer than this. The Twister. A Terran.
Remember, don't panic. Okay, maybe a little panic.
He got a random gifted sub. Well, I mean, he's winning in so many ways tonight. So, I will be trying my best, and I might be screwing myself over by saying this, but I obviously want to get an idea of how many people, like myself, these horrible, filthy, disgusting masters and more likely diamond leaguers, smurfing or playing at a lower level in the lower leagues. I'd like to get an impression, because from some people it seems like it's a serious and overarching issue, and then others don't seem to notice at all, and in my experience, it's a lot closer to the second one, where people who have a basic build order and game sense will feel like they're so much better because that's how StarCraft works. And thus we try to avoid skewing the results of that by playing constantly against people who are also simultaneously enjoying the stream like you beautiful people. Now, against Terran, we're still going to stick. We're still going to stick with the Marine into Reactor. I think pretty early on, we're going to learn some real TVT builds, but I want to stress that my Bronze to Masters, my educational series, both for my own sanity and because I truly think it's better, are not about giving you something to copy-paste. Because, one, that's not how I learn, and two, that's mind-numbing to me. Like, I think actually learning how to do it yourself with a guide of sorts is much better than, here, check out this build, it'll get you to diamond. I could do that. I guarantee you I could do that. And maybe I will, if it gets the click. But that is not the same as When you see that he has one barracks on the high ground without a reactor, you understand it could potentially be a one base all-in, and therefore you want to build a bunker on the low ground. Maybe get a second gas, and acknowledge that keeping your units on the top of the ramp is a better idea, because he may attack the natural and you might not have enough to defend. So until I get something like a siege tank or a starport unit, as soon as I get a siege tank and probably a Viking, that's when I'll feel a little more comfortable with holding my second
Command
base.
center upgraded. Your add-on is all done.
But in TVT now, I'm actually going to send out a single Marine. 4 minutes, single Marine. Let's fill up that bunker as well. Got to start the tank as soon as possible. Get a single Viking. Now, air control is very important in TVT. But, once again, a little bit higher level than this, all puns intended. Right now, it is still very much, might be like, about who builds a battlecruiser first? No. Maybe. So, just right now, since you'll see it, the counter to battlecruiser is Viking, Cyclones, Raven, not really turrets, and not Marines. Certainly not Marines. Of all the things that people try to counter battlecruisers with, Marines are probably the worst because they technically can shoot at the battlecruiser, which makes people think that they'll kill it with Marines.
You engage the
This
enemy.
is a mistake.
On purpose?
They are very unlikely, and if they do, it is not because their Marine micro was particularly incredible, but instead because the battlecruiser micro was particularly terrible. Alright, a 3 engineering bay build. One of the things that people will point out and be like, aha! 3 NG base! And then not even think about the fact I'm about to be supply blocked with 900 minerals, and that is many times over more relevant. So we'll start the Vikings. I should have started the 2 gases. Honestly, when do you get your gas natural? Around 35 workers. If you feel like you need more tech units in TVT, I think 35 workers. In the other matchups, 40 is a better number. Because in TVT, you just simply need more tech. Honestly, at 5 minutes, I should have scanned. There it is. I think he'll jump now. I'm just gonna get some zoning turrets. These turrets are not to kill the battlecruiser, but instead, just to buy time for the Vikings, which I will now be continuously producing. Make sure we don't get supply blocked. Loco should cast these games. Is that your priority? Loco should cast 2 players doing nothing and not attacking each other for 7 minutes at least, until a battlecruiser eventually jumps in and dies to Vikings. That is the sort of bland content that we know and love from our Dutch friend. Alright, so we know there's a battlecruiser. I don't need to revolve my life around it. Once I get... We're at the point now. Once you get stim and combat shield and upgrades. Yes, notice there's a lot of caveats. Once you get all those things, Marines can counter battlecruisers. They're still not great at it, but they're not nearly as terrible.
Your forces are just a little bit better.
Putting my Vikings on control group 3. I am hotkeying the additional barracks. adding in the armory to the base control groups. And I'm going to send a few Marines out for scouting. And because it is battle cruisers, I will build sensor towers earlier as well. Well, I think we should scan again. Which is... I know, right? So it looks like he's transitioned from battle cruisers into... Now, this is going to sound crazy, but... more battle cruisers. So... Which is just... Wow.
A mineral field has been depleted.
An absolute... mind-blowing turn of events here. So I'm going to get +1 ship weapons.
Add-on is good to go.
I'm going to get another starport. You know what?
Your add-on is all done.
I'm going to
Mineral
get 2.
patch is gone.
He has at least 2. And to top it off... Oh, wait, I didn't. I did build depots. All right. Yeah, that was... I was about to say. And now I'm going to get unsupply blocked for once. But we made it. Cyclones are the early game counter to battle cruisers. Like, you'll have a tech lab on your factory. You might not have a reactor at starport. If there's a battle cruiser coming in and you don't have any other options, it's better to have a Cyclone than another tank. But later on, Cyclones, despite their name, cannot fly. An important point. And that makes them significantly weaker. And just in general, they're relatively weak units as time goes on. They're just not good at fighting in large numbers. Not keying in. He scans the main. 2 scans at once. Now I have way too many SCVs here, but
CC upgrade done. You remember?
I'll tell you right now, he's waiting.
Add-on complete.
He's waiting for his moment. I'm actually gonna get the high sec auto trekking. He's looking for it. I'm gonna you see the mini map? A-click, shift-click 2 Marines. Then Control 1, which resets the control group, and there go the Marines.
Upgrade completed.
Left side,
Your forces
same
are
thing.
Just a little bit better.
1 Marine. Yeah, it looks a little
upgrade is
funky
complete.
there, but here you go. Adding more Vikings in. Gonna get some sensor towers. Control click, shift 3. So I think there's a non-zero chance that he has one of those corner bases. So we're gonna split off the Marines yet again.
Research all mined out of that cluster.
And if
still in
I
the-
have 3
Nice.
bases and he has 2, and now this is true. I have more bases. So that is what I would base my
The enemy is
actions off.
attacking your base.
So he definitely has more than that battle
Patch is
cruiser
gone,
here.
And it's not coming back. You took all the minerals from that
Which-
cluster, you thief.
Makes us somewhat suspicious. I thought when I saw that on the minimap, I just kind of assumed out of reflex it was a Marine.
A mineral field has been
It
depleted.
was a battle cruiser. So interesting. Don't want to commit all your battle cruisers. At this point, I'm actually going to scan to figure out what I need to build, because I'm almost maxed. Vikings it is. Alright. I heard a jump. 1 more. Don't want to commit all of them.
Mineral field depleted.
As we should have known. Of course, expanding not to your 3rd, but anywhere else is the safe and mentally stable option.
Your army is under attack.
Alright. Well, looks like this brought at least one battlecruiser out to play. Oh, come back here. Nope, just the one. Get another base set.
Upgrade complete, but at what cost?
We got a lot of Vikings. Adding more Vikings. Building armor.
Upgrade is all done.
Though, hopefully it doesn't come to that.
You're all mined out of that mineral field.
Alright. Well. The only counter to a bad guy was some battle cruisers. So, there is no rule, there's no law stating I cannot also build battle
Upgrades
cruisers.
finished
Like,
up.
well, it's very likely I can win a fight. Like, that is... Why did you stab? Oh my. It's very likely I can win a fight, yeah. But... there's no reason not to have every tool in your box.
Refinery's offline. Your SCVs have no purpose in life. Mined out of that cluster. And still in the game? Nice.
So this is the difference between turtling and macro. For those who might have been wondering about a distinction. This is what it looks like.
Upgrade done. You upgrade completed. Your forces are just a little bit back.
We're building more Vikings. I'm actually going to stop with the Marines.
Mineral patch is gone, and it's not coming back.
I'm pretty sure he's walled in with his own... not quite.
Add-on finished up. You picked that one?
Another planetary...
Army
Why
under
am I
attack.
building planetaries?
Add-on
Is another good question. Add the starports in. Build my own battle cruisers. I mean, he started it. Okay, it's only fair. So we get our battle cruiser game out of the
You
way.
took all the minerals from that cluster, you thief. CC upgraded, but at what cost?
Let's salvage. I need those 75 minerals from the bunker. That is one of my pet peeves, actually. It's when people salvage bunkers that, like, one, it wasn't in the way. Two, you don't need the money. Like, I watch pros do this. They'll salvage a bunker and then 12
guess
charge
that
lots
guy's
come
a-
in
but
a
turrets
minute
only
later.
cost
It's like,
minerals.
bet you would have liked that bunker, Clem. I say, and then I grumble back into Twitch chat in slow mode. But still,
A mineral field has been depleted.
yep, it appears he does have this base. Alright, he's got some
Mineral
liberators.
field depleted.
We're building up the battle cruisers. I wonder what upgrades he has. Yes, +2/+2 ship weapons. Okay, alright. Let's move on here. So, yes, I am in a very winning position here.
You engage the enemy.
I very likely could have moved... Well, I would have had to drop the Vikings, but... Vikings are actually quite good on the ground against mech units. They have a bonus. Which it was supposed to be for... against Protoss units, like Immortals and Stalkers. What makes them surprisingly good counters to things on the ground like tanks and Thors. Though I wouldn't recommend your go-to counter for Thors being Vikings. Don't do that. That's not it. Alright, let's try this.
Your upgrade is forces under attack. The boys are next.
He's thrown some Banshees in just to have the full variety. Oh my god. The Thor splash. I'm willing to bet this Terran has 0 upgrades. I just a minute ago pointed out his upgrades. He actually was quite diligent about it. It's just, honestly, if he had taken a third in a timely manner, that was actually his third, built a few more tanks, you'd have enough economy to make a dangerous amount of BCs. Like, I was concerned that the BC count would be high enough that my Marines wouldn't cut it. Because if he has upgrades, and I build too many tanks and medevacs, and I just have Marines, battlecruisers win. Like 12 battlecruisers win. So the Vikings are actually super necessary. I knew I could do it. With your help and your assistance, I am now a Bronze League. So we did end up here. As a Bronze League hero. With some games to get towards silver, but we stayed under the limit. But he also was quite under the limit as well. So shout out to the Twister. By the way, 2 seconds supply capped. I think for this first episode of Terran, well, what I want to do is I want to take some Terran questions. A bit of an intermission before we get back and probably play 5 or so more games. Yes, as I've said, the true Bronze is the Silver League. Bronze is a bit more diverse. And if there are no questions, I've done an amazing job. You'd be recommending Tank before Cyclone all the time? I think, or just at this low APM, I don't think there are too many scenarios. In Diamond is probably where I'd start considering Cyclone first builds. Because in Diamond is when you do have to start acknowledging the other player is in the game. Before that, only a cursory acknowledgement of, like, I guess battlecruisers. But once you get to Diamond, you do come up against especially things like Void Ray rushes and stuff like that. You do potentially need Cyclones. I have a 60% versus Protoss and Zerg, and 35% versus Terran. As Terran, should I uninstall? I don't understand people who uninstall games. Like, unless you're still running with the same amount of hard drive space as you were in 2010, I don't know if like a 40 gig game is really gonna make the difference. Like, but I get the sentiment. I get the sentiment. I understand what you're saying. So my answer is yes. In TVT at Plat Plus level, what alternative to Reaper Hellion start if not cheesing? There isn't one. Reaper Hellion is the start. You can... No, that's it. Like, you can maybe do like a Cyclone and skip the Hellion, or possibly a Widowmine, but that's your start. That is 95% of TVTs are in some way Reaper into Hellion. How many workers do you keep out for building on average? They don't require extra certifications to build. Though I do like to hotkey my first SCV that I'm going to use for the barracks and the command center on 2, just to have something out there in case I need to jump back to it. But, I mean, as many as it takes. With Terran, this is another reason why Terrans are a lot less likely to be religious about having 16 workers on minerals, because occasionally 4 or 5 of those workers need to be building buildings. And you can't be moving them around bases constantly trying to adjust that. You got at least a tenth of your workforce. And that is part of why mules are so important, and Gideon Orbital is so important, is because when a tenth of your workforce is tied up in building the rest of your infrastructure, you need to make sure you get the rest of your economy from somewhere. So, when should you supply drop instead of mule? When you're supply block. I know it sounds dumb, but it used to be that mules mined more. They used to be worth literally more. As did Chrono Boost was more powerful, and Larva gave more larva. In Legacy of the Void, everything was nerfed by about 25 to 30% in effectiveness. All macro mechanics. Just to kind of smooth out the economy, especially since you start with 12 workers. So it used to be that you were losing out on a significant amount of minerals when you did a supply drop. But now, while you still get technically less minerals than you would if you used a mule for its full duration, you got to think, a supply drop is 100 supply for a depot, plus the mining time of an SCV. So that is 120, 130 minerals, and if you are supply blocked, maybe it's more SCVs you could have built in that time and they're going to mine. So a mule mines about, I believe it's 250 resources. It's a little under that throughout its duration, which is the equivalent of around 5 SCVs. These are very rough numbers, but to give you an idea. So it is not a huge hit, and it's much better to drop supply when you're hard supply blocked. And it's still pretty good, even if you aren't hard supply blocked. Hard supply block is when, 46 out of 46. And I haven't started anything, because I've been over here microing this Reaper real hard. That kind of thing. So. What is the best defense early against quick DTs? I would say getting your first... So if they're on one base, getting an engineering bay by about 3:30. If they've expanded, by about 4 minutes. And slapping down a turret in each mineral line, I think, is a safe bet after the NG bay finishes. If you have any suspicions or you just want to play it safe, this is like if you've seen it or you are not sure, this defends you against Stargate or DTs. The idea is you're not trying to counter it, it's just delaying it. That's what static defense does. That's what turrets are for. That's what planetaries are for. It's like cannons and spines. Static defense buys you time for your army to come back and defend. It's not supposed to stop things in and of themselves. The same is true with the detection from turrets. At higher levels, I'm going to be using Raven builds. Raven builds very popular. It's just, I think at this level, it's still much more important and easier to have scans rather than trying to control one of the most expensive and kind of finicky units that really you're not going to get the mileage out of until you can reliably build barracks on time, right? So, one base battlecruiser is best strat, yeah. How to do attack into siege tanks? Don't. And the one base battlecruiser guy might help you out, but overall, for Terrans and others attacking into siege tanks, the first thing you got to ask is, are these tanks actually doing anything? Because a lot of players will see siege tanks and immediately think, I need to kill those. Are they hitting your base? Your mineral line? Are they about to? If no, you have time. Coming in from 2 different angles, waiting until they unsiege, these are all options. The second best option is just air control with Vikings and tanks of your own. Or even eventually, like late game, battlecruisers are the best option at this level. Like Maru and Cure, mostly Maru, are going to use Ravens and Vikings. Okay? Don't be fooled. Cure, you should have used Battle Cruisers. But Battle Cruisers, when people don't have 400 APM, are a safer option. They're a late game option. They're how you break turtles. Now, they are not the only option, and they are not the first option, but they are better, I think, in most scenarios than Ravens. Liberators are also good, but they're a lot harder to use very well. I think really Siege Tank Viking, and then Battle Cruiser in the late game. Yeah, there is always the option. Like, you got to consider, if he's got 10 Siege Tanks in the suburbs near your base, could you maybe just go kill him? This is usually a yes. Because he's either, one, not building anything, or two, rallying it all out. Like, it's very unlikely as much at home. So. Is there ever a good time for Hellbats? When you feel like your MMR is too high and you wanna lower it. Or you're playing mech and already have decent Tech Lab production. Or Banshee's deleted. For most people, yes. Banshees just don't fill as much of a role because of, one, Zerg's building a lot of queens, Terrans having Vikings and Ravens, and Protoss oftentimes opening up Stargate or Blinkstalkers. Means that Banshees don't really find a place too often. Occasionally players like Byun will try to make it work, but it's still kind of a niche choice. It's also very... So I will be showing some Banshee openers, but the Banshee is essentially kind of like the Void Ray for Protoss, where you have an air unit against Zerg that can defend, because Zerg doesn't have anything but queens striding across the map. That's really their only option for anti-air early, so having even a single Banshee can help break the back of any of those attacks. Two Siege Tanks, Cloak, Banshee all in? Yes. And is your name Kevin? No reason. Alright, one more question. And then a quick advertisement, and then we'll be back to the action. Can you play a mech game? I think I will be soon. How are you feeling? Good enough. Why do you call TVT chess boxing? Now, these are more relevant at the higher levels, obviously. And I think I could just repeat that constantly. But because it's the way the units work between Ravens and air control and how well the units can counter each other, what ends up happening is a whole lot of positioning. And then you start punching each other in the face for a bit. And then everybody goes back to their corner, where they might choose to go for more air control, more bio. Then you start punching each other in the face a while more. This is a little different than PvP, which is essentially just guessing what cards your opponent is holding much of the time. Though you can see some of them. Or ZVZ, where you can see everything that's happening almost all the time, especially in the early game. TVT is a little more methodical. Sounds more like boxing. Well, the chess is the positioning part, which takes a while. Okay. Can you 2 Rax proxy? I can. I'm not going to, but I can. Have you tried Zerg Hex? Yes. What's the best defense against proxy Void Ray battery? Crying. But also, maybe the tiers will short out the batteries. If you don't scout it early, upgraded Cyclone, reactored Viking is actually pretty good if you can get there. A lot of it is if you can get there, but you should do whatever you can to stop it before it comes out if possible. A well-executed proxy Void Ray battery is very hard to beat. on minimaps, in my experience. But it does, like, if you scout early enough, you can probably cut it off before it really starts. All right, quick advertisement, and then back to the action. Thank you guys for watching. Hey everybody, I'm Winter, and I'm here to talk to you about Prime Gaming. Did you know if you have Amazon Prime, and we know if you have Amazon Prime, you can get for free Prime Gaming. Yes, every single month. So many exciting benefits. You go to gaming.amazon.com and you can find incredible loot that will make you unique and special, much like the other millions of people who have the exact same thing with Prime Gaming. You can get that Apex Legends skin that everybody else is using. You can get $400,000 a month in GTA Online, which could buy you not one, but like 4 bullets, I assume. But wait, there's more. Did you know New World still exists? Amazon does. You can get something for new. I don't actually. Does anybody know? I'm not. We'll keep you updated on that. Probably not, actually. But wait, there's more. Did you know that every month, for free, you can subscribe to a streamer of your choice? Yes, even me. Even if you're not able to watch live, because I'm essentially a vampire. I prefer the term gamer, but I'll take either. You can subscribe for free at any time, once a month with Prime Gaming. And don't even think about it. Just do it, because every moment you wait, you're losing money for me. So subscribe with Prime Gaming, because what do you have to lose? And if that's not enough, remember, here at Amazon Prime, we know where you live. You told us. Good luck, and good night. Thank you guys for sticking around. No ads are loud and annoying, but esports in 2022, you know. What's it gonna be? Bio or mech? The people will decide for the next game. We got 5 more games tonight. Thank you for watching. I'll be right back.
Oh, a follower. Is that all?
Strategy 42 is chilling for 1 month.
Oh, a follower. Is that all?
Grey Mamba is chilling for 17 months. Less than 3.
Could go either way. It's hard to tell. I think we'll try mech. We'll give it a shot. Against Protoss, it's a little bit more difficult to pull off.
Welcome back to Broadsley. Another game of StarCraft.
Well, here we are. He does have that Kaczynski portrait. A little suspicious. Now, should be suspicious of me as well, to be fair. But this game, we're going to focus on breaking down the scouting a little more. Especially, so when you go for mech, that doesn't mean I'm only building mech units. In fact, I think the mistake a lot of people make is thinking mech is just like essentially playing an entirely different race. Like, I'm a mech Terran, I'm a bio Terran. The best mech Terrans build a whole lot of Marines in the early game, because Marines are just the best and cheapest buffer for the rest of your units. If you don't build Marines, and a lot of them, you are very vulnerable. I'm not saying getting stim and combat shield, I'm saying getting a dozen or more Marines off a reactor is not something. I think Gumiho is probably still the boldest Terran and tries mech the most, though still rarely against Protoss at the higher levels. But yeah, Gumiho still will make very many Marines early on, despite how they usually are not going to be a huge part of your composition. So what do we see here? We see two gases.
A better command center.
I don't know. He had kind of a weird probe
You engage
doing
the enemy.
things,
On
but
purpose?
I will leave the base, and Billy Bob will go to his watchtower. And against Protoss, and especially against Protoss who has yet to expand, I'm gonna build a bunker. Looks like that probe got the taste of SCV and isn't willing to give this up quite yet, so we're gonna take him home to the family. Family doesn't really like other races, but
That one?
they're still family, I guess. Bit of a yikes, though. Alright. This is Jimmy. A bit of micro there slipping by. Oh no, wait. So he saw that I had a barracks with a reactor, which I guess is something. I'm gonna send a Marine. I'm gonna right-click it into his base. Because just in general, not playing mech, just in general against Protoss. Okay, well, I'm always torn, because this is bronze. If he is
Your
truly
command
bronze,
center? Better than ever.
there is no reason to scout. But I'll be honest, I wasn't sure what it was. But the fact he
Add-on is
moved
good
it
to
and microed his probe at all has already put me on edge. That is where I am right now. Let me get that engineering bay. You saw Billy Bob over there with the, yeah, these probes. Yeah, these probes are getting around. Which is, and there's that Dark Shrine. So you see, I got my engineering bay at
engaged your forces.
3:45. Remember that timing I said, 3:30? If I had gotten it at 3:30, it would have been done with time to build turrets. And I still should have time to build turrets. I think there's a pylon right there. So, I'm actually going to get a second engineering bay. And I think he's doing a DT drop. Actually. Because now that I think about it, we saw the robotics facility. And because I outright confirmed that... Yep, there it is.
Army under attack. Base under attack. Stim to win. Time to lift to the corner and pray.
Because I outright confirmed there's a Dark Shrine. Is why we are doing this. But if I had followed my own timing of 3 minutes and 30 seconds, then we would have been okay here. But unfortunately, I was a little bit late, which means... Oh yes, charge. So we have confirmed what I suspected, which is not the newest player here. And I can't go mech, unfortunately. We're gonna try to kill the warp prism with the auto turret. I mean, not the oldest. Yeah, as I mentioned, that bronze is not really the bronze league, but instead it is silver, so we might have some games like this. I mean, it was an all-out DT rush. And you will have to survive these games. But if I had followed through on my own timing at a 330 engineering bay against a Protoss on one base, and I built a turret in each mineral mine, it still would have been dicey. Alright, it still would have been rough. But there's nothing behind it. Actually, I lied. He had a Nexus. He could have... If I was the Protoss, I would say you definitely play that out. He was fine. I take it all back. He had an expansion. He had multiple gates. He was just, as many Protoss are, weak-willed. And shameless. So. Unfortunately, we did bump above the mark there, which means I owe the people. I had to A-click around to chase down that prism, as happens. Still, the slight consolation, of course, is it was lower than his, but still. So that was a sick mech game. So I know I said building a Raven is not the play. What I mean is, by default, I don't think you should build a
Winter
Raven.
Gaming has gifted 3 subs to viewers.
Could you just not? If you see a Dark Shrine, build a Raven. I want to make that clear. If you have the opportunity, especially that early in the game, one base Dark Shrine, you build a Raven. I think we should play it out against our Gold League friend, despite how I did forget to enjoy another screen between queuing up here. So, but for those who weren't here earlier, our friend is a stream enjoyer. In fact, got gifted a sub earlier. And is a gold leaguer with 160 APM. So I am going to give myself the limit of 60, even though he knows it's coming. This is a glimpse into the Gold League. Actually, Gold League will be a limit of 70, but the idea is still... Jimmy, we're supposed to have Twitch chat on the screen. I saw some criticism of the first low APM challenge and how I respond to all the amazing and incredible questions. But you can't tell what the questions were. And I'm still not sure what the issue is, so maybe Jimmy can fix that between the games. Though it has cost us a scouting opportunity. We'll fix that now. I always struggle to place my barracks so I don't have to lift to build an add-on. Honestly, it's always, the add-on's always in the same spot, which is actually a complaint of Terrans over the years. You just gotta kind of practice it. Play against the AI. You can rewind the game and take command of yourself as well. Just keep practicing it. It's just something that you do right eventually. I still mess it up sometimes, but most of the time, it's not that hard to do, but under any pressure, like your opponent being a human being,
Your add-on is all done. Your army is
it
under
can
attack.
be significantly more difficult, to be honest. I actually have no idea. Jimmy! It might just be broken. Alright, we'll use complete sentences. I usually use complete sentences. If I'm answering a question, I usually repeat the question. So the people know what I'm answering. Or to make fun of it, or both. Yeah, I'm sorry, there couldn't be much more of a tip than get good, but it is kind of a just
Forces
get
under
good
attack.
situation.
The boys are next. CC upgrade done. You remembered. Add-on complete.
If the people remind me after the game, you can take another look at it. But yeah, this is a lot of what I mean here. I'm still gonna be making Marines. Now, a lot of Terran builds start with Hellions, but we're not quite at the Hellion level yet, in my opinion. I am going to get a Banshee. The Banshee is a defensive Banshee. And, going mech, third command center at 4 minutes. We're going to get an engineering bay as part of the wall. I don't need it for upgrades.
You picked that one?
Ooh. Wow, I've really done it now. So, you can play 50,000 games, and there's still mistakes to be made. So, you can wall off with a bunker, a depot, and an NG bay if you do it great. You can wall off with just a couple NG bays and a bunker. Like, there are a lot of easy ways to wall off. But sometimes you screw it up. It does take some concentration. Oh, I'm already late on this. Get another around. So with barracks, it's around 30 workers. With factories, I'd say around 35. I got the gases, 30 to 35 workers at the natural. By the time I get to double digits or so. But the factories, so factories cost gas as well as minerals. And that is why you usually don't get quite as many as quickly. And that is why ramping up mech is a little harder to do. Is because of the factories costing significantly more of a down payment. So I'm going to get double armory here as well.
Is now BCC, a better command center.
And scouting barracks. I'll put a tech lab here. And now I've got all the Marines I'm gonna have. So did you know that's a changeling? You can just right-click on it. I used to A-click, and then sometimes I was wrong. So for those who don't know, when you A-click on your own units, you shoot at them. I didn't actually learn you could right-click on changelings till like a couple years ago. Which was most of the way at this point into my StarCraft career. So, yeah, there were the occasional collateral damage, but... Alright, I'm supply block. Might as well drop down those depots. Start these. Is that a changeling?
The enemy engaged your forces.
Ah! Oh, I almost killed the base. So, I'm not going to get all excited about going to kill that base outright. You know what? Yes, I am. I'm going to go send one more Banshee. I'm getting double upgrades.
Cluster, you thief.
I'm going to get the blue flame upgrade. Yes, we are going Hellbats. The one danger right now is Mudus. It's not Mudus. He's upgrading the Hydroden. He has a lair at his natural, but he's getting upgrades you can see. Basic upgrades on the evolution chamber. This means we want more tanks. Looks like he killed the second Banshee as well, so that was kind of just dumb. But another one of my favorite hobbies is walling off my own siege tanks. You'll probably see that several times throughout all this. I'm very good at walling off my own siege tanks. Thors as well, of course, but especially tanks for some reason.
New subscriber detected.
Waffleman 1100 is chillin' for 39 months. Craig has it.
Let me take the barracks off my hotkey. The barracks is supposed to be like a semi-scout. And the first thing I want to do is get the gases here. I should have done that already. Is that a chain? No, that's a real Marine. You see, it's easy to get them confused when you're going back. Alright, I got plenty of minerals. Let's just...
Your forces are just
I pressed the stop command. I should be building units.
An upgrade's been completed.
Take those upgrades.
Your army is under attack.
I'm gonna have 2 tanks just chilling at my third. I don't want to have too many. You don't want to have house tanks. That is a concern. A lot of players end up with house tanks. They hit the select all army key and the tanks are not coming with them. We've all been there. I've done that. But it is very important to bring at least the majority of your tanks, especially, obviously, playing mech, as that's the majority of your damage.
A mineral field has been depleted. Mind out of that cluster. And still in the game?
So,
Nice.
I have time to get another couple factories. I'm gonna go get a 4th. Set camera location. A few Hellions in the front as well.
You're all mined out of that mineral field.
Control click the Marines. Send them over there. And we'll just box select. Pretty solid army. First, before I attack, we're gonna check the few important things. We got upgrades, which I'm getting.
Your precious base. It took
Is there any reason to siege up here? Not yet. Gonna get the planetary. More idle SCVs. Gonna make sure I have the add-ons here.
upgrade completed.
Gonna make this into an orbital. You don't have too many planetaries. Having scans is probably gonna be important. I'm just gonna put 2 SCVs onto the gases. That'll make 3.
Your add-on has been constructed.
Scan forward. I'm gonna go this way
CC upgrade
instead
done.
of just coming down the ramp.
This time?
Hello. Make sure we have vision. Now the most important thing is to be producing, because he actually caught me off guard there. That's why I was going that direction, so I didn't get caught off guard on the high ground. But I think the Thors were able to hold the line. As long as the tanks are sieged, they still do quite well. Gonna take some more. Join up with the Thors. Transfer SCVs over here. And
Mineral patch
Hellbat
is
mode.
gone, and it's not coming back. You took all the minerals from that cluster, you thief.
Make sure I have a couple tanks sieged.
Army under
There's the
attack.
majority of the army, it looks like. It's a bit of an awkward angle.
Now that's the commander I've been waiting.
So, overall, getting caught in the first place was rough, but with mech, as long as you're fighting on the field, like, that is another reason why there's a big difference between turtling and macro. The difference between turtling and macro is just building up your economy so that way you can do a strong attack. Turtling is sitting in your base with tanks and letting them come to you. If you're sitting at your base and he kills your tanks, what's the follow-up? And that is the risk of playing too turtly, even with mech. So once you get to 200 supply, there's not, unless you're waiting for an upgrade or a base to get set down, there's really no reason to be sitting back. I tried. Wait, I said 60, and I still failed. But only by 1. So. Only 1 sub over. Because obviously, he was a little higher up.
Good.
I think
Now I have your attention.
proving
And the
as
game
well
is now
the
chilling.
efficiency. Now, for those that don't know and who skip to this part of the video, so why does it work here? Why is the Twitch chat here, but not in game? Why are you broken in the game? Explain this. All right, give me a poggers in the chat. Oh, there you go. Yes. Oh, wait, this is not really showing the most poggers of gameplays.
Oh,
Thank you. Recently reversed for 4 months.
Recently reversed is chilling for 4 months. Hi, friend.
I just don't enjoy. Let's see if we can make it to some TVT mech. Alright, what are the chances of battle cruiser?
You got this. One way or another.
100. I don't put him at 100%. Thank you, Scooter, as well. I'm gonna put him. It's like 80%. So, and he has, I think that portrait, and I don't like to judge people by their portrait, but I definitely do. That portrait is like the 25 team game Terran wins, which makes me, like, it verifies his legitimacy as a Terran player. Let's put it that way. And I think that definitely raises the inherent chance of battlecruiser. As all roads lead to battlecruiser, it's just a question of how long it takes. I mean, like I said, it's not about copy-pasting a build order, but that doesn't mean you should ignore basic builds. It's 15, well, not 15 anything. There's no 15 anything. Spoilers. It's 13 depot, 16 rack, 17 refinery, and then you build more and more SCVs. You build a marine, and 20, and then an orbital. And then if he's got a command center, you build yourself a command center. And then you kind of freestyle it from there. So there's no barracks in his base. There is now. So I will tell you right now. Well,
Your command center? Better than
okay,
ever.
now there's 2 barracks. So this is the build he's doing. Dies to 1 Reaper. A well-microed Reaper, my friends. Okay. And that is the reason why 1 Reaper does not end games in the Meta Leagues. Because if you spend all your time killing 6 SCVs with a Reaper, but miss out on 8 back at home, that is a net loss.
Your add-on is all done.
I mean, I will give you the basic build. In fact, assuming people are clamoring for it, and the likes are through the roof. 6,900 likes on this video. Well then, we'll update the basic build. But it really is just 111, a second gas. I like to tie things in not to the supply, because supplies change. Like maybe you lose something to a Reaper. The scouting SCV dies. That definitely happens, right? You lost track of it. After the factory, second gas. And then when it finishes, re-gas. After the first marine, reactor. Tech lab first on the factory. Some builds might have a Hellion. Tech lab first what we're going for. But the idea is you've tied these in no matter what else is happening, unless it's like there are marines in your base right now. Because he did a massive proxy rex or something ridiculous
Your
that you
add-on has been
completely had no idea was coming. You can fall back on these. Even if the supplies are slightly different, even if the actual units either player has are slightly different, you can fall back on second gas after the factory, starport after the factory, tech lab first, reactor after marine, and then, well, we said we were going mech, so the follow-up is getting supply blocked at 46, one of my favorites, and then 2 more gases. Between 30 and 35 workers.
Add-on complete.
I'm going to send 1 marine to the front of his base. I'm going to flip the barracks. I know I said marines are good. This is the one matchup where that's not true. Marines, not as good in TVT. Because everything else kills them. We're going to get Vikings. Tanks. I know, a classic tactic. And as I have the gas, I'm going to add a second factory. All these replays will be publicly available for those who are actually truly interested, by the way. That's the beauty of SC2 replay stats. When you go down into the description, yes, that exists, you'll find the SC2 replay stats profile for Microsoft. And with it, you can look up any of the games you're interested in and see the replay and see the build. Even though I'm telling you right now, the execution of these builds And by builds, I'm not doing a build. I've just got an idea and a game plan, which is 3 factories, a reactored starport, and 50 SCVs. And then I want to make sure I don't die. And then we work on taking a third and getting upgrades. I'm delaying the upgrades in the third a little more because against Terran, they have Terran units, which are strong. And he can have the same units as me, so if I get too greedy too fast, he could overrun me. Let's take a look. I don't think it's a huge risk. We see multiple racks like we did before. He's adding on more barracks. I can siege my tanks. I am safe to get a third command center. I am safe to get double armory. And with around 50 SCVs, I have full 2-base economy, which means I can support at least, if it was barracks, I can support 5.
Finished up.
But since it's factories, which are quite expensive, am I super supply blocked? See, game is hard. Drop in supply and build more depots. And I really should have had an engineering bay. Even if you're not going bio, even if you think they're not making any starport units, should have had the engineering bay by 5 minutes. Not to spam turrets, but it could be a advantage. Chance of a battle cruiser. Just having the engineering, it's very important to just have it in case you need it. It's not that expensive. Don't feel obligated to get +1 infantry weapons for your 6 Marines who happen to get built. Lucky them. But it's just something that needs to be there. And now I am going to build a few turrets. Because why? As I'm taking my third, one of the big issues or big vulnerabilities of mech is the lack of mobility. You have a bunch of siege tanks, you have Vikings, but they kind of need to be in the same place at the same time. Otherwise, you're missing out on the most of the strength of the unit composition. So
your CC is now a BCC.
I'm going to add factories 4 and 5. I'm going to lift over that F key to my third. And then I'm going to hit the stop command and screw it up. And now I'm going to build some Thors. Because I don't trust myself with just tanks and Vikings. Just tanks and Vikings are good if you're willing to be diligent about it. But once you got about 10 tanks or so, that should be enough. At least for a while. I'm going to send a few Marines out to scout. I'm going to put the Vikings on control 3. Control F1 for those idle workers.
Mind out of that cluster. And still in the game?
And
nice.
We're going to add them to the third. As well as whatever clump of these. Seems like good enough. Get some spotter depots.
Mineral patch is
and
gone.
we have our very first
complete.
house Thor.
But at what cost?
Congratulations, Thor. Alright, so this is why we have those Marines out there and the sensor towers. Just having any idea
Army under attack.
of when that
Base
army's
under
coming
attack. Time to lift to the
is the
corner,
most
right?
important part.
Add-on is good to go.
And we can start 2-2. I'm going to continue making Hellions. I'm just kind of sprinkling in Hellions, tanks, Thors. I think 5 or so Thors, 10 tanks, and then
Your add-on is all done.
Hellions and Vikings for the rest is your mix. Now, if they're very heavy, like in this case, he's very heavy on the bio units. He doesn't really have any starport units, surprisingly. Though, if my Bronze League heroes' senses are tingling, the fusion core is on the way. Actually, I predict There's your
You
armory.
took all the minerals from that cluster.
This is
you
not
thief.
exactly what I expected to see. It's a bit of a... I mean, close.
A mineral
But not
field.
exactly what I thought I would see. Definitely something worth looking at. But... yeah. Well, now we're getting close to maxing out. I'm gonna add a couple more command centers. Get a couple more starports of my own. I'm just select all army now. Unsiege the tanks, and I'm gonna do it the Scan Valley. He's got that base. All right. I think there might be a corner base, but so, as a great man
Mineral field
once
depleted.
said, if he's doing something weird, go fucking kill him. Well, I would say tech switching into mass starport is definitely is in that column, because he just spent however much.
Upgrades finished up.
Let's make sure we don't get too
You're all
crazy
mined
there.
out of that mineral field.
Upgrades. It's unclear what he's going for. He may not have decided yet, though. Based on the fact I built Vikings, I am expecting Vikings. Fortunately, I have nothing back at home for this particular
The
Viking
enemy is
raid.
attacking your base.
So we're just gonna have to do something of a base trade, I guess. We'll send some of my units back home here. And this is not the ideal. Some of them will go to the 3rd. Is he coming home?
Mined out of that
Yeah.
cluster. And still in the game? Nice.
It might be. There's not going to be much to go back to, but... Viking's actually quite good against Thor. And he has worse upgrades. No, do not underestimate landed Vikings against mech. That is part of the reason for massing the Vikings, at least for me. I mean, he massed the Vikings because that was the build. It does kind of counter mech, though. And did you know that all Terran buildings are mechanical as well? So they do bonus damage on the ground against Terran buildings. And they don't do bad against them in the air, either. So... I'm not saying that going for 10 starport reactor Viking switch after a half-hearted bio attempt is good, but I'm saying it wasn't the worst option. I'm saying it definitely... there are worse choices. So, credit to him. We held the line. 32 APM, and honestly, he took a 3rd on location. I've got to give credit where credit is due. If he focused a little more on his unit composition, and while I say this is not about having a build order, he definitely could use just a basic start for those first few minutes, like I described. And I think he might be better than me at low APM and silver. Because that was, like, I think every single one of those actions was efficient. There's a difference between efficient and smart. Efficient is just not overlapping and spamming. Smart is not running into siege tanks and then switching into 10 starport Viking, but he wasn't spamming by any means. A Protoss. The only Protoss we've played so
I'm sure
far
this one will be better.
has gone one base DT rush and then left the game. So we'll see if we make it past that point here. Is that true? No, that's not true. There was another Protoss. There was Mr. Bingo Strat Carriers, who tried to build a Nexus in every corner. I forgot about him. That was I was more chasing Nexi around the map than fighting Protoss in that game. But yeah, so far nothing that really would resemble a. Now, what is standard here in the darkness? In the Metal Leagues, what does standard even mean? We try to set a new one. Yeah, I'm starting to. So I want to make sure that this low APM challenge, like, it's fun, it's entertaining. I know many of you are not even going to think about installing SC2, let alone playing ladder. But I want those of you who actually are to find it productive. Which is why we're going to be limiting it to 10 to 15 games, which is 2 to 3 hours at a time. Give or take. It really depends a bit on the games, but with some consistency, these games should be between 10 and 15 minutes. Of course, we're not going to end it too early, as he's building cannons on the high ground here. So now the thing is, you might be like, oh my god, cannons! How do I defend? No. Okay. I need to say it out loud. Because a lot of people don't really think about it. A lot of people will see cannons and be scared of cannons. What you need to do is see cannons and realize those cannons cannot pick themselves up and walk across the map and attack your base. You just spent 150 minerals on a forge, 150 and probably soon to be more minerals on a cannon. You spent almost an entire nexus on defenses, and I have no intention of attacking. So, what I do have an intention of is getting supply blocked at 23, which is... I feel like I should gift a sub just for that, because that's... I was spending so much time saying don't panic if there's a cannon that I just screwed up. Like, that's a big one. That's a 23. That's like literally the first real time you could be supply blocked. If you get supply blocked before that, I assume you're AFK. Because it would be your first depot, which you must build before anything. Fun story. I'm inspired by the conversations in about AoE 4 about how SC2 was not very balanced when it came out. And that is true. One of those things was that Terrans did not need to build a depot before they built the barracks. So, what this means is Terrans would literally just build nothing, send SCVs across the map, build the barracks outside your base, float into your base, all before even building a depot, and start building Marines before your Cyber Corps started, if you were a Protoss, or sometimes before your pool started, if you were a Zerg. So the timing, and that is why, my friends, that at least you have to build a depot nowadays. This was worse in Wings of Liberty because it set it further behind, especially for Terran and Wings of Liberty. Because remember, you start with 6 workers. 100 minerals wasn't super easy to come by when you sent 2 SCVs of your 6 out on the map. So, that is a very, very important point. on top of just the time to build it. So, while I am 95% sure Cannon Man over here, oh, Billy Bob, to the Watchtower. I usually, if you had to choose, I like to send to the Watchtower, like on this map, that is closer to my main. Because if he's going to have something slipping by up there, Watchtowers don't usually cover the main attack path. They usually cover alternative paths or air paths. Because otherwise, Terran would just be able to siege up tanks in the most useful location on the map. So on this map, I like to have the North Watchtower, because if he has Stargate units, Warp Prism, probably come that way. Probably head towards my main, as they oftentimes do. So, where are we? We're well past the point of needing to build more factories, but we'll call this a demonstration of, even if you screwed up your build, even if you got distracted, even if your cat spilled some of that Long Island iced tea onto your keyboard,
You picked that one?
well, you can come back and realize, okay, I need a couple more factories, I need the armories, I need some depots, I've got a plan. And that plan is to get 75 SCVs, to get 5 factories, pumping out siege tanks, Thors. It's to get a reactor starport building Vikings, because Vikings are not that bad against Protoss ground, except for Mass Zealot Archon, which, while some of the best Protoss ground, very few players will build at this level. In fact, it kind of gives you that built-in anti-air option against the dreaded Void Race that you don't have usually when you're playing as mech. So. But it's been quiet for a while, and I'm about to finish my armory. So let's take a look. Phoenix. Yeah, you can actually see what's building there. And also, when the Phoenix finishes, you can see that it's a Phoenix. He also has a Twilight Council, but we... No. Well,
Command
he
center
also would have
upgrade.
seen a Phoenix when he showed up at my base with a Phoenix, but that was also on the table. So, I'm going to throw a few Thors in. Gonna get +1 mech attack. I've got... let's send it over here. Let's go scout for more. I'm gonna be taking my 3rd soon. And since I'm up against air, I'll just put a sensor tower in the main. Sensor towers, I'm
base
happy
is
to
under
say,
assault.
have been gaining popularity with pro players. As Clem and Maru starting to realize that even though they're perfect and they have 700 APM and never miss micro, it's only 100
attack.
gas to get
Time
like
to
an
lift to the corner
extra
and pray.
4 seconds of warning. 4 seconds doesn't sound like a lot, but it is a lot. And you don't have to constantly scan looking for armies. So even like Clem and Maru, even in non-TVT matchups, have been building sensor towers a lot more
Mineral field
often.
depleted.
Maybe not a lot. More than 0. Let's put it that way. So, you can, whenever you build a sensor tower, you can say,
Your add-on is all
I'm
done.
just like Maru. And we both know that's a lie. But, it's a comforting lie. Like, you'll be good at StarCraft 2, or Winter cares about what you think about
Mineral
balance.
field has
Or
been depleted.
Protoss is for smart
Your add-on
and
has been
educated
constructed.
people. Right, Terrans? So, comfort yourself with those sensor towers today.
Mind out of that cluster. And still in the game? Nice. Upgrade is all done.
Let's take a look. What's it gonna be? Stalkers. So, siege tanks. And, somewhat important, when playing mech, sensor towers are also helpful. Well, you hopefully look more at the minimap. You know, I saw a tip that I didn't point out, but I kind of liked it in the chat. Yes, I know, right? Like, I actually did. It is, when you do, I recommend 1 to 2 practice games against the AI. Practicing maxing out as quickly as possible, getting those workers. It is to patrol a worker at the corner bases. Like what I'm about to do now. Patrol a worker here. Honestly, the AI kind of does that as well, which is a bit weird. But patrol a worker at the corner bases. And at the very least, it'll draw your eye because it'll be something moving on the minimap. Even if it's not an enemy, though sometimes you might spot something. I think that is one of the best training methods I've heard because it's so hard to be like, just look at it, right? I had nothing. I got nothing for you on that. Like, set a metronome to look at it, but what if they happen to not be there? I like it. I think it's worth a shot.
You're all mined out of that mineral field.
Don't worry, it's been so long since whoever made that tip did it. I can
Mineral
take the
patch
credit.
is gone,
They're
and it's
probably not
coming
even
back.
here now. Like, Winter! Hey, we're all getting a little bit better. It's just some of us are getting paid to help. Like and subscribe. So, I did the classic Terran move here. I just, for some reason, decided it's time to go. Why? I'm not maxed out. I don't have upgrades finishing. It popped into my head. Look, I have an army. Let's attack. No. Let's finish our 2-2. Let's get unsupply block. To make sure we have units in production. And then, let's attack. Terran, this was for Diamond players in general, but the principles apply throughout the leagues. Upgrades, production, making sure you have enough factories, economy, making sure you have the bases and the SCVs producing, building units when you can, and then we attack. Yeah, the toss moved out with something or other. I'm actually going to put a few Hellions at the watchtower. I'm going to do what people never do on this map, because it's kind of annoying, is take down the double rocks in the center. Ah, yes. So remember, this is what to avoid, my Bronze League heroes. What to avoid and what to remember. The instinct to not expand to your third. This is what we're trying to break you of, and this is almost universal, no matter what race you're playing against. Zergs are a little less common because of creep. But the instinct to... It's too scary to expand to my third, so I'll just try to hide it.
You took all
The map
minerals
isn't
from
that
cluster,
large.
you thief.
There's not that many bases, and everybody knows where the bases are. So, here we are. Alright, we're gonna go into high impact mode on the Thors. This is one of the few times I've been outmaneuvered because I opened up a path, but... At this point, there's not too much of a point in sieging. The Stalkers die to everything. They might be dying of just their own lack of self-esteem. It's unclear. But they also die to mech. One of the most exciting things you can see your Protoss opponent build, and they'll oblige much of the time, is Stalkers. Because it is one of the few units. Not only siege tanks and Thors, but Vikings can deal with it. So, Vikings are actually a surprisingly solid counter on the ground, of course. So even if you thought you were dealing with air and he comes out with Stalkers, Vikings are not a useless choice.
Nice.
Defender of Canada is chilling for 1
Thank you,
month.
Defender. Let's make sure we got 3-3 started. I'm gonna get the
Your army is under attack.
engineering bay upgrades. This is when the DTs show up, by the way. If we're sticking to the script, he now either has carriers and or DTs. I think it's going to be a couple carriers. Like, usually what happens is players be like, well, I tried Void Rays, it didn't work.
That Vespene Geyser's depleted.
Or it's Florencio. He does not have
You're all
Warp
mined
Gate.
out of that mineral
He's
field.
still building off of the gateways. So, there's a non-zero chance. He's trying out his new DDR pad
It's not coming
hotkeys.
back.
Still probably going to end up higher ranked than me. So. Oh, a little more of the same.
Mineral research finished, but I'm still waiting on high-sec auto. You engaged the
That
enemy.
research was
On
high
purpose?
sec auto tracking. Me.
Forces under attack. The boys are next.
Actually, I think Twitch chat on this side makes more sense. Because I do like having the alerts. Wait, did he start a carry? No, it was a Void Ray. My stereotypes are wrong. All right. Want the alerts on the right? No, the in-game alerts are on the left, underneath the beautiful comments of Twitch chat, actually. We gotta go back. We didn't check. $46. And that seems about right for the opponent. I will say, the real staple of these less experienced players is their lack of supply block. If there's one thing we've noticed from Bronze League heroes and beyond, is they very much enjoy having supply. There is such a thing as too much. But it is still better than getting supply blocked all the time. He was also trying to do, no, he's just your average Silver Leaguer. Honestly, if he had traded out those Stalkers for Charge Lots and those Phoenixes for Void Rays, you'd have a real composition there. It's just, Stalkers and Phoenixes are two of the units that require the most micro for Protons.
One way or another,
Not the least.
You got this.
So you're kind of setting yourself up for disaster if you choose those units. All right, a Terran. We've had one Zerg, and that one Zerg was stream sniping. So, and had triple the APM or more of most of the opponents. But the reason I chose Terran first is today and historically, in the Bronze and Silver Leagues, Terrans have made up nearly 50% of players. So that means if you're a Bronze or Silver Terran right now, no, you're not alone, but you're in near majority company. And I like appealing to the most possible people. It is simply like, I think it makes sense. The first campaign and many of the training and tutorial missions are Terran. Terran is it is the simplest to pick up if you've played any other RTS. The concepts are relatively simple. Like, you build units out of barracks and factories and starports. You don't warp them in from wherever, like our last opponent didn't. You don't bank up a larva by spitting onto a hatchery with a unit that gets joint pain when it's off the slime. Like, you don't have those concerns. This is not very nice. But you can't hide spending 400 minerals on a command center. No matter what the rest of your opener is, you
Your
can't
CC
hide
is now
400
a
minerals
BCC,
on a command
a
center.
better command center.
So. that means if he's got a command center, I think I'm pretty safe to get one of my own. And another thing to point out that let's not read too much into is that he had 2 depots. He had walled off, which means it's kind of unlikely he had gas that early.
Add-on.
But it's not 100%. And it's not... The most relevant part is did he expand? And he did. So, that means I'm safe enough. I'm still going to make a bunker. And we're still... I mean, the entire point here is I'm doing the very minimum of acknowledging my opponent exists. Like, they can attack. Sometimes we have to prepare in certain ways. But most of the time, just doing this middle of the road, like Marine, Tank, Viking. It'll get you most of where you want to go, which is not dying until 200 supply.
Add-on finished up. You picked that one? CC upgrade done.
So
remember
I'm going
this
to add a
time?
Marine to this watchtower. I'm going to send Jim Bob. I'm sorry, Billy Bob. Jim Bob builds our command centers. It's very different. He doesn't like being called by his brother's name. And now, more depots. If I'm about to be split bot, I like to build 2 or 3 at a time. I'm actually going to send 1 Marine right to the center. And then we have all the vision we need for quite a while. 33 SCVs right between that 30-35. I'm going to set this over there. Build another tank. Drop some mules. Engineering bay. Just a pre-5 minute. Not because I necessarily think I need it, but I should have it. I'm going to send the barracks off into the wild blue yonder, which is literally underwater here on 2,000 atmospheres. Like, so very blue. But I digress. A few more depots. A couple more moulets. And now additional vectors. As we're still able to produce... right in front of that SCV's face. I'm going to get a turret in each mineral line. Because, of course, the chance of battle cruiser is never 0. Continue building Vikings, and there's really no reason. Like, Vikings... The only time Vikings are not great is against just a straight up bio army. They can kill the medevacs and all that, but like Viking tank will get you a lot of the way. So I think that he doesn't have units in the medevac so much as is walking across. But if he does happen to have units in the medevac, this inspires me. Get the armories. Is that the first medevac? Based on the damage it's taken. Yes. Let's get that third command center. So this is, he kind of just dropped for the sake of dropping. Because this is exactly what we're trying to avoid, which is, I'm doing something! I'm map control!
All done.
No, you're barely in control of your own keyboard, let alone the map right now, so... Supply block, I'll drop them down. It's not like I'm hurting for money. And as we get the third CC, I'm going to make one more turret in the corner. I'm actually going to scan. Let's see. We got a starport. We got the ever-important turret ring. So this means I think I can skip a couple tanks to get a couple more factories a little more quickly. We'll build some Hellions just to fill in for now. I try to keep... I think it's good to get in the habit of having Vikings on a separate key. You start that habit early, or at least try to,
Command
and
center
it will make it
upgrade.
a lot easier later when you really do need to have air units like Vikings under not moving the same way your siege tanks do. That will make your life a lot easier as time goes on, even if it is kind of hard to get wrap your head around early on. Just shift click, control click. One of the methods you can use, here I'm going to hit the select army hotkey. I'm going to control click the Vikings in the select army hotkey. So they're all, my whole army selected. And now control 3. So if your units are kind of
Find out
scattered
that cluster
around,
and
as
still
will
in the game.
happen,
Nice.
that is one way to use the select army hotkey without it as a more
Upgrades
precise
finished up.
method.
Upgrade is all done. Mineral field depleted.
Your third base should start after your first round of production or second round.
Your
So that
add-on's been
means your
constructed.
first 3 racks or after 5 racks, depending on what you really prefer. But it's important to get around 50 SCVs by 8 minutes. And right around that 50 SCVs or your second round of production, you should have the money for a third command center.
Add-on complete.
And if you don't, you have to think about why. Like, are you queuing up a bunch of siege tanks? Are you dying actively to, like, a marine drop? Or are you not dropping mules, maybe? And those are some of them.
You took all the
the
minerals from that
culprits
cluster,
there.
You thief.
So for right now, what I saw in his base was a Terran who's building siege tanks and marines and Vikings. And a bunch of turrets on 2 bases. I am confident since I've been focused on production. I shut down that early drop. And I got my third base on time. There's no way that he has more supply than me. There's no way that he has a larger army. And there's no way he has better upgrades. The real only risk now is getting caught off guard by something like a battlecruiser switch, which is not a huge deal when you've been building Vikings. Or essentially attacking a terrible angle.
Mineral patch is gone, and it's
The idea is the basic units we're building have already prepared us for many of the possibilities. So before we move out with 2-2 finishing, pretty consistent again. Let's take a look. Thor's Vikings. I like the cut of your jib. Thankfully, mine's slightly edgier.
a mineral field has been depleted.
Also, just kind of learning the scan radius, I see a lot of Terrans will just drop the scan directly on where they think something is. Like if you think the army's here, just drop it on the natural. Remember, the scan radius is larger. It's larger than the indicator. It is larger than this. So you can kind of see it with the animation on the outside. I've actually never noticed that. You can actually see where the animation reaches, even though the circle is smaller. So there you go. Pro tip, learn live. You can see where the scan will reach with like the flashing. Huh. So there you
You're
go.
all mined out of that mineral field.
We're gonna head on in, get the tank sieged up, put the Vikings in place. Oh, anti-armor missile. The Thors did get trapped by the siege tanks, which is caught between a rock and a hard place. Ragnar rock and roll, am I right? Looks like that Thor is pretty hammered. Alright, time to stop.
Mineral patch is gone, and it's not coming back.
Looks like after this we're going to the Hard Rock Okay, that's too much. It's too much.
CC upgrade done. You remember.
Want to switch the Hellbats? Honestly, I probably already should have. Right now, it's just things to get in front of siege tanks mostly. I'm gonna get some more starports, factories, command centers. We've built a lot of Vikings, which means there is a small danger here of a switch into things like Liberators. All right.
A mineral field has been depleted.
So, my tank upgrades are significantly better here. And that makes a huge difference. Is that tank bugged out? It got hit by an anti-armor missile a while ago and it never recovered.
You took all the minerals
And now
from that
it's
cluster.
just very hard to tell what's going on. Alright.
Mineral field depleted.
So this is the stage where the actual answer is Viking battlecruiser. Or just, you know,
I'll
having
mine out of that mineral field.
a huge army. That also works. I did select all
Upgrade
army
is
here.
all done.
I was a little lazy.
And I'm
Like,
finished up.
Just having
That one.
the ability to trade 4 Thors to 1 is definitely a helpful move.
You engage the enemy. On purpose?
Okay. 2 can play that game. Wherever he scans me, I'll scan him back. You'll lose this. You can't have more orbitals than me.
Mined out of that cluster. And still in the game? Nice.
There's no, like,
No more gas left there. I'm sure it all went to a good cause. CC upgraded. But at what cost?
Okay, let's not waste our time here too much. Alright, I'm gonna unsiege, we're gonna drop the Vikings, and now this scans for realsies. This is a bad idea, don't do this.
Mineral patch is gone.
The real way, if you're not trying to do a series on a relatively short timer, not really short, is to go get more Vikings, get ranged Liberators, and or battle cruisers. Or just have a bunch of Thors. I guess that works too. I gotta...
Mineral field depleted.
Yeah, that usually also does pretty well.
I've never seen this screen.
Raining Blood. Did he pick up into that medevac? So we are... Oh, where did we end up on that? No! Oh no! It was all the he baited me into the scans! Ah. It's his fault. That's not fair. Alright. We got one more game tonight. That should land us at silver. Assuming we don't get quite a contender.
Now I have your attention.
But I hope you've enjoyed...
Winter Gaming is now chilling.
No. Never. I hope you've enjoyed this first episode of the 2022 Low APM Challenge. There are many, many more to go. I'm not sure how I'm going to handle the sheer amount of games. Of course, there will be Protoss and Zerg, though I'm probably going to get Terran through Silver first and then kind of decide. But, yes, these numbers from SC2 replay stats And the next episode will have some SC2 replay stats elite codes, which allow you to check out that training center more often. I mean, you can still check it out every day. It's just like, are you playing more than 2 games a day? Let's be honest with ourselves. Enjoyed the more loose and casual build style. Made me actually play the game. It is a stressful game. It's an anxiety-inducing game.
Welcome back to Broadsley. Another game of StarCraft.
But it can be fun. You need some direction. And you need someone to at least point you in the right direction, I think. Now, unless... Well, when I started out, after my WoW Arena partners started playing SC2 for a day, and I went and bought it from GameStop, and then canceled my WoW sub because I was poor. Then I played... a lot of people nowadays don't really have the ability to follow in my footsteps, to use my methods, which were sleep through class most mornings because I was up watching GSL at 5 a.m. and 240p while playing 8 to 10 hours beforehand. So essentially having no sleep, playing 30-something games of Wings of Liberty a day. So I do admit that that method is probably not going to be great for most people nowadays. So a very key point here is if you kill the probe, you kill the probing. So now he brought a second probe, which is going to add to the problems a little. But, we'll have to see here. Gonna get some more vision, he is. And that should be the rest of his, Oh, he got another probe. So that is quite a call. Thankfully, he 8-clicked not on the SCVs there. So that means we can just deal with this. You know, this is pretty helpful, I will say. It's good that we got a cannon rushing tonight. So the count is about 5 SCVs. 5 SCVs, or workers of any kind, really. They will kill a pylon before it finishes. 4, if it just started, is a comfortable number.
Your command center, better than ever.
I'm gonna do a little micro here. And then as Terran, like worst case scenario, I can just lift. So cannon rushes against Terran, especially cannon rushes for the sake of cannon rushing, as opposed to like for a big follow-up, are just... The real key is don't panic. You do have to do some finicky micro, but you gotta realize where the threats are and where they aren't. And the summary is, if the cannons can't see you, they can't shoot you. That's what it comes down to. And that is most of what you can use against them. So, in this case, I either zoned out, or I got cannon rushed so early that I didn't realize. I'm not going to be going mech this game. This is definitely a bio game. Off of this awkward start, trying to afford heavy gas things is just rarely the ideal. He's expanded here, so that's
Your army is under attack.
a bit of a cheeky move. Just going to hang out over here. So not his first rodeo, is the summary.
Your add-on is all done.
Gonna hold position those Marines, and their lives are now no longer relevant to me. I know it sounds hard. But now, I mean, I'm gonna watch. I'm building SCVs here, to be clear. But that did cost him.
Your add-on has been constructed.
We're gonna move this over. We're gonna move this to build a reactor. And we're gonna start walling off. Now, the usual follow-up, as we all know, is Void. And then DT. Not necessarily in that order, but if he expands early, I think Stargate is a little bit more likely. We'll see how much of a stereotype he's going to be.
Wow.
I'm just gonna put in a mineral line. Now, I think it's worth this game. Gateway's got a
You
forge,
picked that one?
so it may very well be neither. We're gonna start +1. Drop a mule. Get myself a bunker. And another depot. Because it's looking pretty dangerous for me right now. If he does some sort of warp prism charge lot play, I think that is a significant threat. Alright, Billy Bob. I'm gonna need you to go out there. Scout things out. I think charge lots, because usually you don't go for the +1. I might be applying a little too much logic here. But I'm going to feel more and more comfortable as my upgrades get closer. Ooh, an Oracle. Did not expect that.
Your research is complete.
Didn't even know that players of this level knew what an Oracle was.
Research complete. But have you learned anything?
But overall, so we had a forge, obviously. Well, now that I'm thinking about it, he had that forge a while ago. Did he not? So the forge should not be surprising. I didn't even think of that. I was just kind of like, oh, we got a forge. Kind of not remembering some key parts of this game so far.
Your upgrade is complete.
So now I've got my 2 sets of production. Let's scan here. He's got an expansion. Building some shield batteries. He may... Well,
You
we're
took
going to
all
go
the
around
minerals
this
from that
way.
cluster, you thief.
This is the time to build a third
Research
command
is
center,
done.
though,
Your forces are just
as
a
well.
little bit back.
The fact that he's over here means, well, yeah, it's unlikely. So right before I come in, it is time
You're all mined
to
out.
get
that
this
mineral.
pylon. In fact, those force fields kind of helped. It is clear he wants to get charged. I'm gonna stim again.
Army under attack.
Get an
Slide
armory.
out of that cluster.
We're gonna build some more reactors. Did I get an armory? I did. Second engineering bay? That is an armory, right? They're all boxy.
An upgrade's been completed. Your CC is now a BCC, a better command center.
We're gonna back off here.
Add-on is good to go. Your add-on is all done.
And start those 2-2 grades. He has a Colossus mixed in there. Let's see. He's taking the other third. We're gonna make sure we're producing units. And remember Vikings.
The enemy engaged your forces. Your army is under
Let's
attack.
go home. Some mules. Some concussive shells. Yeah, I got plenty of medevacs. Actually, what I need most is to make sure I'm building Vikings. I will queue them up. Make sure we charge law proof. Remember the hotkeying Vikings from the Select All Army? Let's do some of that. It gets a little clunky with all those medevacs mixed in. Better to have the medevacs alive, though, than the alternative. Some more Vikings. At this point, my economy should be better as well.
Upgrade complete, but at what cost?
We got some vision.
Took all the minerals
I
from
think
that
those are
cluster, you
Colossi.
thief.
Oh, it's a pylon.
Upgrade's finished up.
He's tickling me very hard right now. Some repair. He probably edged it out a little bit, though I have my suspicions that he wasn't quite the Bronze Leaguer we were looking at. But nice of him to give us a cannon rush there, and one of the more dangerous ones, the cannon rush from low to high ground, as opposed to, like, a lot of players with the cannon rush, you have to think about, is this actually threatening me? Because I see a lot of cannon rushes that are more like the idea of a cannon rush rather than actually rushing anything. But he did put those cannons in dangerous locations that had to be dealt with. So overall, hopefully that was in one of the more educational games, at least on the first part. If following it up is a little more difficult, I think that guy probably won't be facing your average silver.
You're all mined out of that.
But
A mineral field.
you will find cannon rushes. You will find Zerg rushes. You'll find all sorts of rushes. And you have to think, one, is this actually a rush? Because a lot of people will say, I got rushed, I got cheesed. Just because your heart has been beating at 130 beats per minute since you pressed the ranked button doesn't mean his 7.5 minute 12 charge lot attack is a rush. Okay? And it doesn't mean that just because you've spent all this time building starports and they're halfway done with battle cruisers that you have no counter. There are other things to consider. But When you are faced with it, the key is, and it's cliche, is don't panic. Literally just say, don't panic. Say it out loud. To yourself. I did. Now, I said it technically to other people as well, but especially for Terran, because Terran gets punished the most for panicking. You're essentially, because of the way Terran production and supply blocks work, if you panic and you slip on those things, you're going to keep slipping. So it's very important to kind of get back to the straight edge game plan of getting a second base, getting your production, and putting together at least something of an attack if possible. So let's take a look. So shiny. The glimmer. Though the 3 looks surprisingly low resolution. Oh. Yeah, I remember the tiers were added after Wings of Liberty. Back in Wings of Liberty, it was just silver. But now we have the multiple tiers. Back in my day, we were way off the mark. Now, you see why. As that Protoss player was averaging more than your average Diamond Protoss. Not that that necessarily means anything, as we're trying to prove here. Part of what we're doing, and this will come up, is being as efficient as possible. And I usually at least like to think I know what efficient as possible looks like. So even when I do go above, and the people will be paid for it, I'm going to give myself the 6. We're going to do 4. Because, obviously. Even when I do go above, I still do my best to be efficient and explain why. So, but we're not done. This first short 3.5 hours, give or take. So if you're on YouTube, like, subscribe. I will say a big reason of why we're back to the low APM challenge is people have commented both through their literal comments. Through their literal comments and through the fact it is pretty much the most watched series I have that they enjoy. They're entertained. Or they learn something. Edutained, even, but either way. And on top of that, I think it's something I'm pretty good at. So hopefully you learned something. But if you have any questions, you can either hang out live, as I'm a vampire, but I will. Now, don't hold me to this, but I will, as these come out on YouTube, try to compile some of the questions from YouTube and answer those during a time like this for some Q&A. So if anyone has some Terran questions, well, we'll take general questions as well. We're doing Protoss and Zerg, don't worry. The reason we're splitting them up is because last time I did random, and I forget which race it was. I'm pretty sure it was Zerg that we didn't get for like the entire first day. But I got to like Silver 2 before playing one of the races, and that's not ideal. So when should you grab your second CC? If your opponent isn't going for a 1 base right outside your base, you grab it on 20 supply after getting your first Marine out of the barracks, and your SCV goes down. You build your orbital, get a Marine, get your command center. If your SCV that you scouted with at 1 minute, or rallied out from 17, if you see they didn't expand, or they don't have any buildings in their base, or they have a bunch of buildings in their base, you build that command center in your base so you can keep it safe. Keep it secret. Not really secret. They might be able to see it from the ramp. That's not important. But the second CC on the low ground, if they only have 1 gas, if they're also expanding, which is Zerg and Protoss, usually, with more macro builds, will try to expand a little before Terran. Then you're safe to put it on the low ground. But I think a key takeaway is don't be afraid to expand to your second and especially your third. I think the biggest hurdle, not at silver, not getting to silver, but I'm confident you can get to silver. But getting through gold and platinum is Terran players just, especially Terrans, and their skittishness. Their how timidly they think about third bases. So, if you can put yourself out there and just take the right third, not one in the corner, but just take your third and work with it, that puts you ahead of most. As Zerg, how not to die versus stupid stuff. Queens. Queens. You should aim for at least 3 queens per hatchery. So like 9 or 10 queens by 8 minutes or so. Queens are the counter to air. They help against ground. They give you more larvae. Creep. It's queens. It's actually a major complaint. If you watch my games against Scarlett, Scarlett explained why players don't go for overlord speed at the high level Zerg. Because you spend money to scout what they're doing, and then you just build queens anyways. So that is much of the early game. Why spend money to scout if the response is still going to be queens? So I think what people struggle with is that queens are not on the select all army hotkey. I like to put my non-inject queens on the 2 key. That's usually what I put units that are useful, but I'm not using all the time. My main army's on 1, utilities on 2, whether that means SCV for building, or Vikings, or siege tanks, or queens, or for Protoss like a warp prism, observers, void rays, stuff like that. And then 3 is usually for a spellcaster ability unit. Alternatively, a flyer unit. So 4 per pylon, 5 per cannon. No. So with Cannon Rush, the ideal, if they just started a pylon, is at least 4 up to 5 workers. A cannon, 4, but if it's halfway done, you need 5. Cannons have 150, 150, so 300 total HP. Pylons have 200, 200, so they actually have more HP. It's easier, if you have to choose, to kill a cannon than to kill the pylon. So you have to think about what is actually threatening me. If I try to kill this pylon and the cannons finish, or he just builds another pylon, was that worth it? Many times, no. But it is relatively easy to just outright kill the cannons. So, use modified standard. I actually go over my hotkeys at the beginning of this, but yeah, I use lightly modified standard hotkeys. And also, I have a short guide on hotkeys out there as well. I do think grid is fine. I've come around. I no longer am neutral on grid. I support the usage of grid hotkeys. I kind of wish I'd use them to start, but I'm old and fear change now, so I don't. But if you're starting out, I think grid hotkeys are perfectly fine.
Oh, good.
Hey,
now I have your attention.
Flash Spud is chilling for 11 months. I use Windows hotkey setup Kappa.
What? Why is that a kappa? Why is there a kappa? What? Obvious grid user, yeah. Any other, specifically Terran question? And then, of course, for YouTube who made it this far, wake up! You didn't press the like button before it autoplayed. Please do so, and thank you. How good is Liberator versus Carriers? Don't you... Vikings. I'm trying to get people in the habit of Vikings. Viking and using a separate hotkey is the counter to a lot of things. It'll make your life a lot easier if you get in the habit of using Vikings well. Not as the only unit, but as a supplemental unit. What would you scout that would change your build past bunker? Well, if you've scouted, the bunker's probably on the low ground. And I'm assuming you've expanded. Honestly, I don't really scout. Like, we're not really scouting for several minutes past that. I wouldn't really change my build besides... unless it was a one base. If I wasn't sure what a one base was, I'd get the engineering bay at like 330. And I might add turrets on a little more quickly against Protoss. I might scan against Terran around 4 minutes, which is when Starport is finishing up and they're committing to whatever tech they're doing on one base. If there's Zerg and they're on one base, the bunker should be on the high ground. Make sure it's one base, but the bunker should be on the high ground. With Vikings, when is the time to drop them? I assume you mean to the ground? To the window? To the wall? But essentially, when you're confident, you don't need them in the air. This means, like, you shouldn't be building that many Vikings unless they do have a use in the air. But they're not. It's not bad to have 6 or 8 Vikings as part of your army against Protoss. They're not better than Medivacs much of the time, but if you have 8 Medivacs, might as well build some Vikings. Against Terran, you should lead with 6 Vikings or so. Get in the habit of that. Because early on, you don't really need Medivacs. It's more about having tanks. Against Zerg, Vikings are less of a choice. Vikings, I will say, just to be clear, against Zerg, Vikings are not really very good. They don't have bonus damage against anything. They don't even trade well with other air units. They're pretty much your desperation counter to Broodlords or Vipers, and you probably won't see many of those. So, another choice would be Liberators in that later game. But Liberators, I think we're going to be tacking Liberators closer to the Gold League. I don't think Liberators are necessary or very helpful outright, except for getting kind of cheesy wins in the Silver League. Best counters for lots of Void Race. Widowmines. Vikings aren't bad. Marines. You might be asking best counter, but he has Storm. Well, that's a different story. In that case, the tank's in the right spot. Vikings to make sure the Void Rays can't abuse you. The Ghosts are another higher Metal League thing. I don't like. I'm willing to put Vikings out there. I think that'll ease people in to using more than one control group for units, and that means we can apply that in Terran 102 to Ghosts, Liberators, and doing actual drops. I know, yes, even with low APM, but that is the upper Metal Leagues. Oh yeah, Thors are always a good general unit. Advice on how to fight Protoss against Colossus and Disruptors or Storm? Tanks. What to make against Mass Muta? Thors. Maybe some Widowmines. Thors are good. Widowmines are very good. You just got to be careful, because that's another thing that takes a little bit of extra control. Marines are also just very good. It's just Marines don't fly. They're one weakness. When is the rank to add in some Widowmines? I think that's going to be something we start mixing in as a counter around gold. But I think Widowmines as an opener or a strategy are going to be a little closer to diamond. Maybe not quite diamond, but close. Because while Widowmines are very good, I think they create bad habits to use too much of and rely on, especially early on. And they're quite clunky to control well, so that's part of the bad habits thing. Like, building 5 to 10 Widowmines is good with mech, yeah. But it's a lot of extra stuff. It's a very different thing. Do you think there's a difference in the 1v1 rankings? In my experience, I'm actually several hundred MMR higher on Europe than on NA. This is partially because Serral and friends drag the MMR of the entire ladder up. But before Masters or so, really the key difference you're going to see is a lot less English. The skill level is comparable. In my experience, there's not really a big difference. Korea, on the other hand, is like a literal league above, but that you're going to get insulted in several different languages, which I do appreciate. It makes me feel cultured. How do you counter Widow Mines with Zerg? Lurkers are a solid bet. Making sure you have Overlord speed. Just getting good with Lurkers, or using Lurkers really is important. Widow Mines are hard. Like, Zerglings will go wandering into them, but just having Lurkers as a good composition against Terran, that is going to get you pretty far. Is mech play as Terran dying? No, there was never a time where people played mech as like the go-to build. There were times when it was more popular. These were times before Protoss Stargate openers with like Void Rays and Carriers were more plausible. These were times before the Lurker got buffed. If you remember a few years ago, the Lurker had its upgrades added, where it now has the range and the speed. It didn't have that before. So the Lurker, being a more viable mid to late game counter, makes mech significantly weaker. On top of the fact that bio has kind of always been just better, for the most part. Alright.
New subscriber detected.
Garwanum is chilling for 70
But,
months.
more questions next time. And on YouTube, I will do my best to at least have someone, Jimmy, to collect questions and answer those. But I hope you've enjoyed. I hope I made your day and your games a little bit better. Thank you for watching the Low APM Challenge 2022. I'll see you next time. Stay tuned.